Wow, good job, KCPD. They're coming around. Good morning. Happy Friday. Thanks for starting your day with us right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I got a text last night right before I was going to go to sleep from one of the big TV anchors in town. And he said to me, hey, I heard you talking the other day about the Uber driver who was assaulted and how police were saying in town they would not get a warrant. He says to me, you made some great points, and he said that they just found out that the police are now going to seek a warrant to get the suspect's information. So he was crediting us and, of course, his team for basically hammering away on this story, not giving up on it. And let's be honest, as much as I back the blue, police got to do their job here, okay? I mean, you may sit there and say, well, the prosecutor's not going to do anything with this. Well, let that be the prosecutor's problem. You still got to do your job. And you have this woman who was going all over social media over the last couple of days and talking to anybody who would listen about how she was punched in the face by an Uber rider, and it cost her $6,000 in medical bills, and KCPD won't issue a search warrant to figure out who the suspect is. Here was the story. This was from Fox 4 a couple of days ago.
She jumps out of my seat, runs over, and just punches me in the face. Just straight with her fist, right into my cheek here.
She says the woman then hitches a ride with a stranger. Gone.
So I'm sitting there.
Then she says police arrive an hour later, insisting she gets checked out. She went to the hospital, racking up a $6,000 bill, all over an $8 ride.
The doctor ordered a CT scan because she says this is an orbital bone and it's very easy to crack.
We called the Kansas City Police Department after a couple of weeks went by looking for an update on her alleged attacker.
The detective called me. He said, Uber won't give us the information without a search warrant, and we're not going to do that.
With a search warrant, they would know all of this information and who to hold accountable.
You're just kind of stunned, like, seriously? I mean, it's a piece of paper. You can't just go around punching people and get away with it.
Well, apparently you could in Kansas City until finally somebody wised up and said, no, this story doesn't make us look good, even to those folks who back the blue and like the police. And that's obviously, this show and myself. But I can't defend this, and I wasn't going to defend it the other day. Go get the damn search warrant, do your job, and go help this poor lady out. That's frankly what you're paid to do. Do your job. And the fact that she even had to go to local media and throw a stink about this is not a good look for anybody involved in the department. It's just not. And, you want to sit there all day and tell me the prosecutor's not going to do anything. Let that be the prosecutor's problem, and then we'll call out the prosecutor. But I'm hopeful that Melissa Johnson and somebody on her team would do something about this. I'd like to think that they would do the right thing. If you're not going to be a police department and prosecutor's office that defends innocent people who are literally working, making money to pay for your salaries, to pay taxes so you can get paid and you can get pensions and you can get health insurance, then what's the point of you? This was such an insulting story on so many levels, and I'm glad it's turned. And, if we played a bit of a role in that, I'm happy to be a part of that. But it was I found it to be such an offensive story that this lady who's driving Uber, older, not old, but older, clearly working because she has to, not because she wants to be driving people all around Kansas City, gets punched in the face, has a $6,000 bill, and her own police department says, sorry, we're not going to pull the warrant, issue a warrant, and try to figure out who this was. Wow, that's a great look for Kansas City, not. So I was thrilled to see the update from Fox 4 last night and hear about this. And now I hope they follow through. And I hope it's not just looking for the headlines and looking for the attention off the top. I hope that they're actually able to track this suspect down and then get charges and then, go from there. and actually do the work, because it's the petty crimes in Kansas City. We talk a lot about the homicides, right? And those, they're trending down a little from last year, but we haven't really hit the summer months where we're going to find out what exactly this year's going to look like. But either way, if you want to be optimistic, they are down year over year. That's cool. That's great, obviously. But for too long, what you had in this town was the petty crimes. The punching Uber drivers in the face, which I guess we'll call a petty crime. The marijuana, before, of course, that got legalized. All these different things that Gene Peters Baker and that office would not touch. Melissa Johnson's, I believe, doing a better job. But you can't take your foot off the pedal here. You just can't do. You got to stay firm. That's how you're going to get crime down across the board. That's how it's going to happen. Not just going after the big murder cases and the big homicide cases, but going after the low-level stuff too, and making people realize you're not going to get away in this town anymore with punching people in the face in an Uber ride. That's not going to happen. And I hope, it's sad, but I really hope that all the attention this story has gotten has woken a few people up. 6:10 on a Friday. Thanks for being here on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. So we are going to have on Laura Kelly and Adam Hamilton. They will both be on the show this morning. Laura Kelly at 8, Adam Hamilton will be on the show at 8:30. Hey, Mark, pop down. What do you have on in the studio there? You got Fox on? Pop down a couple of channels. Go to 43. Tell me what you see on 43 right now. It's going to be good. Don't worry. Don't get nervous, Mark. It's going to be okay. Tell me what you see on channel 43. What are you seeing?
Oh.
Look at that.
Pastor
Hamilton right now is on Morning Joe on MS Now.
He kind of looks like Morning Joe.
Yeah, they kind of look similar. He's right now on MSNBC. Can you pull it up on the TV? I want to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
All right, pull it up. Let me see where this conversation's going.
Having a chance to run for the United States Senate.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you
so much. Let's bring right now the host.
All right,
of the
never mind.
podcast
We
on
came in at the very tail end of it. Adam Hamilton just making his first media appearance of the morning on MSNBC. He will be on this show coming up at 8:30 this morning. So his warm-up for KCMO was a little Morning Joe with Mika and Joe Scarborough. Okay. And now they're going to be breaking down the Kansas Senate race, trying to see if they can flip a seat. Listen, I reached out to the pastor's people yesterday, and I said, would he come on the show? He was on the show a few weeks ago. And we had a conversation about him exploring this run for Senate. Today, we'll find out why exactly he decided to run, why he decided to run as a Democrat versus an independent, and something very strange happened in the overnight hours as well. I don't know why this happened with his campaign. I'm not sure, frankly, what to make of it, but it's kind of interesting. I mean, this gives an enormous shakeup to this area's politics over the next several months. And you know what? The odds makers believe this is a big shakeup for the area political scene over the next several months. What are they saying? And what happened in the overnight hours? We'll share with you coming up next right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
The fun's not done after Mundo in the Morning. Hey, it's Kevin Keatsman. Join me for Uncanceled at 10 o'clock right here on KCMO Talk Radio.
I don't know what happened, but Pastor Hamilton's X account got suspended in the overnight hours. I don't know if he pissed off Elon Musk or what exactly happened here. But, you know, he had the big announcement yesterday that he's going to run for U.S. Senate against Roger Marshall. And he put up a video that I wanted to play for you this morning. You know, I usually flag things the night before, come in here, cut the audio up. Mark and John put it into the system, and then we can play it for the show. And I like having audio. And he had about a 2-minute video making his announcement. And then this morning, I go to the Hamilton for Kansas X account, and it's gone. It's suspended.
He did repost the video on his other Twitter page if you want to use it.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay. You mean his personal page?
Yeah.
Okay. What happened to the official account, though?
That's a good question. They're questioning it right now on Twitter about 10 minutes ago. So.
It says this post is from a suspended account. So, like, the Hamilton for Kansas official account got suspended. That might be a record for having a suspended account, along with John Anthony, who got kicked off of formerly Twitter under the old regime after about 12 hours. He followed too many of the wrong people.
Yeah, you couldn't do too many in a day or something. It's like, what a clown show. I'm like news director. I better follow Claire McCaskill. I better follow Josh Hawley and all the different people. So I'm banging away like a chimp on the keyboard, trying to build up a network, you know. Oh, no, can't do that.
John hasn't been on Twitter since. And that was
I refuse.
Fall of 2018, give or take. It's been about 7.5 years for him since he tried to get on Twitter or X. So I thought that was strange yesterday. Or when I saw the news when I woke up this morning, I was like, what the heck's going on? I mean, what did X do to this guy? I don't get it. So this was obviously the huge news yesterday as Pastor Hamilton announces that he is going to run for United States Senate. And on top of that, you have the odds makers putting out some numbers as well. Before I get to that, I do want to let you know that we have 5 chances today to win tickets to see Greg Gutfeld coming up this Sunday at Cable Dahmer Arena. We'll do it at 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, and 10:30 here on KCMO Talk Radio. All right? So just know that your first chance to win is coming up here in a few minutes, and they're sweet tickets with a parking pass. Big time stuff. All right? All right, now to the odds. This comes from Kalshi. It's one of those big odds makers where you can't really bet on this stuff in the United States. However, you can at least get a sense for where the odds makers are at and where the big money is trending. And right now, Kalshi is giving the Republican Party a 74% chance to win the Kansas Senate race coming up in November. Now, the Democrats have a 26% chance, You might say, well, I'll take those odds if you're a Republican. Well, what if I told you that 2.5 weeks ago, Republicans had a 91% chance to win and Democrats had a 9% chance to win? That has now shifted from 91% for the Republicans to, in less than 3 weeks, 75% in favor of the Republicans. And the race hasn't even really started. Adam Hamilton is a major favorite to become the Democratic nominee. That will happen. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He will try to not get in the weeds of a primary. That would be to his benefit, to not really get mudslinging with people who are going to run probably very far to the left. He will try to stay moderate for the primary and then move further to the center in the general. That's the strategy here. I'm not telling you what's in his heart. That's not up for me to decide. That's up for you to hear him and decide. But I'm telling you that's the strategy. He will not be mudslinging with people in this primary who, let's be honest, nobody knows anyway. No one has any idea who these other people are running for U.S. Senate in the state of Kansas. It's Adam Hamilton. He's going to be the guy going up against Roger Marshall as a Democrat. But obviously, Democrats are very excited about the prospect of potentially, if nothing else, giving Roger Marshall a major scare. Now, you might say, well, why does that matter? It's not horseshoes, Pete. What's the big deal? Well, here's why it matters. Money's a zero-sum game. And if the Republicans in the Senate have to spend money in Kansas, That's money they can't spend in Texas. That's money they can't spend in Ohio. So I don't know what the outcome ends up being. I still think Roger Marshall's a favorite as the incumbent in a state that has not elected a Democratic U.S. Senator since 1932. Like, Roger Marshall's the favorite, to be clear. But if it's closer than maybe people anticipate, if the party nationally has to spend money in Kansas, that's money they're not spending somewhere else. So it's kind of like a sport. It's a game in many respects. And that's where this creates a scenario where the party will have to spend money and hustle in Kansas, which they don't really want to have to do, right? I mean, they want to focus on some of these other seats in some of these other states where it might be more purple. It might be a closer race. There might not be an incumbent. They want to get somebody else across the finish line. They want to win in Georgia, places like that. And they don't want to spend a dime here. Now they may have to. So that's what, in part, this is really about. So that's why this also matters. It's not just about who wins. It's about what it means in the national landscape. But one thing that, I'm intrigued by Pastor Hamilton on and what he's going to have to do in the weeks and months to come is really dial in on some agenda. He's got to have a policy agenda of some kind. I just don't think you can say all the things about like, hey, no, I'm just middle of the road. Like, I think that may work to some extent if you're Sharice Davids running in a congressional race. I think that can work. I don't think it's enough statewide when you're going up against an incumbent in a race like this. I just think that he'll have to identify what exactly he is and who he wants to be on the policy side. Because if not, I think people are going to sniff that out. And they're going to say, well, what exactly do you stand for? And what are the policies and principles that you truly and genuinely believe? Because if he doesn't do that, well, Roger Marshall's going to have a lot of ammunition to work with on the campaign trail. So whatever his beliefs are, policy-wise, and I don't know. I haven't heard him talk about them. He's going to have to get those things identified as soon as possible. If not, you know what? It's going to be, I think, tough sledding for him. 913-408-7957. That is the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. Pete, this is on the text line. People that don't live in Johnson, Wyandotte, or Sedgwick counties hate the direction the state is going, but they're overpowered by overpopulated liberal counties. Well, not really. I mean, Trump won the state by almost 15 points? More than 15 points? I don't think that's true. Laura Kelly won in part because she was the incumbent, and Derek Schmidt didn't have a very good strategy, in my opinion. He gave up on Johnson County. It's what I said yesterday. What Roger Marshall can't do is give up on Johnson County. You just can't. And the reason you can't do that is because in a year that's not a presidential year, there are many Trump voters who only show up for Trump. They're Trump people. That's it. Derek Schmidt learned this the hard way. They thought that they were just going to copy the Trump blueprint and they just sail into the governor's mansion. There are voters who are just Trump people. And if you lose Johnson County by 20 points, guess what? You're going to have to make it up somewhere else. And when Johnson County is 20% of your population, boy, you got to run it up in places that you wouldn't otherwise think to. And that is a difficult uphill battle. So that's where Roger Marshall's campaign can learn from the mistakes of Derek Schmidt. Because you're not just going to wake people up who love Trump and get them to show up for you. Even if you're considered an ally of the president of the United States, you're not him, okay? You can be the cover band, but you're not the original band. And that's something that Derek Schmidt learned the hard way. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO. Let's do it. First chance to win Greg Gutfeld tickets in the suite. Seventh caller right now to 913-408-7957. Let's do it here on KCMO Talk Radio. Show is at Cable Dahmer Arena this Sunday.
On Friday's Guy Benson show from the other Washington State, Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator, he's been tangling with Democrats on Capitol Hill this week. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
All right. We got 5 winners today for Greg Gutfeld tickets. Who was the first winner, John?
Well, from our studios in Overland Park, we have George in Kansas City, Kansas is our winner today for the Greg Gutfeld tickets.
All right. Congratulations there, George. These are sweet tickets to see Greg Gutfeld on Sunday, and you get a parking pass as well. Cable Dahmer Arena. We will not be there on Sunday, just so you know. Some people have asked that on the text line. Not going to happen for us, but you get to go, so that's cool.
Best off, not to mention you know me either.
Yeah.
Over in Independence.
Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't get yourself in trouble, okay? All right. We've got Pastor Adam Hamilton at 8:30. We have Laura Kelly at 8 o'clock. I'm just warning you. It's going to be a wild 8 o'clock hour here on KCMO. So hang tight for that. We're looking forward to it in about an hour and a half. And we have 4 more chances to win Greg Gutfeld tickets, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, and 10:30. And then we also still have one more chance to win the tickets to Morton Amphitheater. You get to pick who you want, Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, or Hank Williams Jr. Who picked the winner yesterday for Kevin? Who was the winner on the Kevin on Keatsman show?
Aldean, so it's 6-2-0 now.
6 for Aldean, 2 for Hank Williams Jr., and 0 for Luke Bryan. Oh, man. Luke, what are you doing to me? Okay. The president yesterday rolled out Trump IRAs, and I'm just kind of loosely calling them that. But the president rolled out an executive order aimed at getting tens of millions of American workers enrolled in retirement accounts. This is good stuff. We need more of this happening from the government. What the idea is here is to try to help people be less reliant on Social Security. That's the long-term play. And it's a great idea by the White House. I'll get you the details of it, but first, here was President Trump announcing this yesterday and what exactly it's all about.
Beginning at the start of next year, every American will be able to go to TrumpIRA.gov and open a new low-cost IRA account. You'll then be able to access the same type of retirement accounts that federal employees enjoy through the thrift savings plans, which are incredible. As part of the Federal Savers Match Program, low-income Americans will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 per year in matching funds deposited directly into their accounts. It's a great thing. For millions of Americans who lack employer-sponsored plans, this will be really revolutionary because they'll be covered. Nobody thought that was possible. For example, if a 25-year-old who is eligible for a Savers Match Program invests just $165 a month under the matching federal contributions, they will have an estimated $465,000 in their account by the time they're 65 years old. In other words, they'll be rich. And there's something awfully nice about that.
Something. There's something nice about that.
They'll be rich. And there's something awfully nice about that. That was President Trump yesterday from the White House. It's a great idea. Now, here's what you need to know. This TrumpIRA.gov website will launch next January. And who it's for is about 40 million Americans between the ages of 18 and 65 who lack access to an employer-provided retirement account. So if you have access to a 401k through work, you don't qualify. That's how it's intended to be for people who have jobs where the employer will not match or not give them some kind of retirement account. That's who it's intended to be for. So that's about 41 million people. Now, there's also, of course, income limits when it comes to the match of up to $1,000 from the federal government. So if you're a joint filer, let's say you're married, your income needs to be between $41,000 and $71,000 to get the federal government match of $2,000 per year. For individuals, it's, $21,000 based on their tax return starting next year. So it's really intended for people who do not have a retirement account set up in their employer or through their employer. And then how much you get from the federal government in a match in this IRA is determined by what your income levels are. And that's anywhere up from $1,000 if you're an individual to $2,000 if you're a couple. Now, the broader problem here, of course, is just that people who are making, let's say, a household income between 40 and 70 grand, obviously they're under a squeeze right now. It's a tight squeeze given the economic climate. So it's going to be hard to find $165 or whatever it might be to put towards a retirement account. That's a fact. All right? That's going to be very difficult for people to do in this current climate with costs continuing to go up. So the president has to acknowledge that that is still issue number one. You can roll out this plan and say, hey, if you just give $150 to this account over 40 years, if you're 25 years old and you get the federal match, well, you compound that 8, 9, 10% over 40 years, you'll have $500,000. In Trump's words, you'll be rich. That's true. But people are saying, dude, I got to afford the groceries first. I got to eat before I put $1 into the retirement account. So I think that for the president and for the White House, the idea is a really good one. And it's one that I think gets people realizing, wow, compound interest is an amazing thing. And this is the kind of personal finance stuff that should be taught in schools all across America. I mean, it's Dave Ramsey math is what it is. Instead of advanced geometry and trigonometry and all these different things that no one ever uses in the real world. What about personal finance? Why is this not being taught? That if you take, the $150 a month, you get a match for $100 a month from the feds, and you just let it grow and let it compound and don't freak out over the market going up or down. And you just quietly do your thing based on historical average returns. You're going to be sitting there with $500,000 at the bare minimum when you're 65. I mean, that's the bare minimum you'll be sitting on. It's that kind of math that, unfortunately, millions of Americans don't really grasp and don't comprehend. And, yeah, it's partially their fault, but it's also the fault of our system. Our system doesn't educate people on this stuff. So whether it's the Trump accounts for babies, and Keatsman and I were talking about this yesterday. He's helping set one up for his grandson, Rudy, who was just born. And I told Kevin, I said, well, my kids just missed the cutoff for the Trump accounts. And he's like, go back and check on that. I think that anyone under the age of 10 can benefit. You might not get the match from the feds, but you could set up a Trump account. And he's right. And I missed an email from my accountant who's like, do you want to set a Trump account up for the kids? You can do it if you want. And I totally missed the email. So I got to tip the cap to Keatsman on that one, because he's like, go back and check on this, and you could still set up a Trump account for your kids. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll do that. And there it is. I found the email that I totally missed from the accountant saying, hey, you can set this up if you want. And when you actually look at the compound interest on the math of a Trump account, whether it's you maxing it out for your kids or it's, grandparents or family helping out, if these kids don't touch their Trump accounts and they max them out from age 0 to 18, I mean, these kids are millionaires if they don't touch it when they turn 65 years old. And then Social Security doesn't need to be the safety net anymore in this country. And it doesn't need to be the thing that is robbing people blind on their paychecks. A lot of people got paid yesterday, right? Last day of the month. Go in and look at your pay stub. No one does this anymore because no one really has a pay stub that they collect and they go put in the bank. I had a pay stub very early in my career. I had my boss in Oklahoma. He owned the radio station. He liked to personally sign the check and hand it to people on payday because it was a power move for him. He wanted to remind you, I'm signing the checks around here. I'm the boss. So you'd have to wait till 5 o'clock on payday to get your check from the boss. There was no direct deposit. He would hand you the check. You would watch him sign it. And in many ways, I think it was a power move. All right? That's what he was doing. So whether it's looking at this Trump IRA that's going to launch next year, the Trump accounts, the 529s, they're all benefit. The 401k obviously is a great system as well. If we get more people educated on this stuff, we can, over time, it won't happen tomorrow, but over time, move away from this horrible system of robbing Peter to pay Paul that is Social Security. Frank's in Overland Park. Frank, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete. So good to hear you. Happy Friday. The whole thing of compound interest is absolutely miraculous, number one. But the interesting thing is, you're right, system has let us down, but it really hasn't let us down. The system hasn't caught up. When you really look at history, think about it. Our parents, actually, no, my parents, not yours. You're younger than I am. My parents were about the first generation in history to have disposable income. And disposable income has only come about as a miracle of this nation and the free market system that has allowed a middle class to develop that has disposable income to do something with. Up until the 19 teens, maybe, or 20s, people literally lived, and sometimes didn't live because they didn't produce enough crops. They lived paycheck to paycheck when there was jobs. And it's only since the 1930s and 40s that you have, and coming out of World War II, that you have disposable income that could be amassed into amazing fortunes. We're seeing this with our clients now. They're looking at us going, where did it come from? And I'm saying compound interest.
Yeah.
Compound interest.
Where did it come from? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Frank, great stuff.
But you look at it, and its bottom line is our system hasn't caught up to educating this next generation.
And you know what? We need it, and we need it ASAP. Have a great weekend, Frank. Good call. Appreciate you, man.
Too.
See you later, brother. I mean, he's right. We got to get people educated. Paul, go ahead. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete, I'm a TSP guy, government worker, and I tell you what a game changer this will be for people. Not only can you, like my TSP, it's a firewall. I'm going to leave it to my grandkids. You can do that, but it's got different fund sites in it. So you get 10% for the C fund, which is the S&P, and the S fund is for the Dow Jones. And you can move your money around with the stock market how you want to do it, different funds in there. So people can make – I'm telling you, you're going to make big money on this. This is a great deal for lower-income people. I'm excited about this.
Yes, and that's who this Trump IRA account is intended for. To get the match, It is for 41 million Americans, thank you, Paul, who do not have employer retirement accounts as an option, and you get the match if you're making between 40 and 70 grand a year. Walter, Spring Hill, go ahead.
Hey, Pete. You're right. They don't teach any of this stuff anymore. When I was a senior in high school back in 1981, they don't even teach the rule of 72. A lot of people don't even know about that, that if you're getting like 8% and you're investing, you divide that interest rate by 72, that means every 9 years your money will double. They don't even teach that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know they don't. It's crazy.
And it's a shame because, simple math, like my paycheck, I take all my deductions and the taxes and stuff, and I divide it by the total gross, and I get like maybe 29 point whatever percent. Well, then you take your gross that you're going to get hourly, and you multiply that by 0.770 whatever, and that tells you what you're going to get on your paycheck. A lot of people don't know how to do that.
Walter, you're right. I mean, when people realize the compound interest math and doubling money every, depending on the return, 7, 8, 9 years, it's amazing. And time, I mean, it's cliche, but time is genuinely money when you look at it that way. Earlier is better. So I hope that this is also part of an educational process by the White House. And if they can get programs, personal finance programs, Dave Ramsey programs in schools around America, boy, that should be on Linda McMahon, the education department's list today. Coming up, the 6 at 6, top 6 stories in the 6 o'clock hour next.
Vince Colonnese here. Join me for your lunch hour from 11 to 2 on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
6:54. Good morning. It is great to be here on a Friday on KCMO. Let's do it.
It's time for the 6 at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio. Number 1.
Top of the list, Pastor Adam Hamilton, Church of the Resurrection, is in the United States Senate race. He will run as a Democrat against, well, if he wins the primary, Roger Marshall coming up this fall. And Pastor Hamilton will be on this show at 8:30 this morning, right here on KCMO, along with, not with her, but Laura Kelly, Governor of Kansas, will be here at 8 o'clock.
Number 2.
All right, in Liberty, this is getting some action. A massage therapist has been charged after client reports sexual assault. According to court records, 56-year-old Tong Fu has been charged with one felony count of second-degree sodomy in connection with a reported incident at Medi Massage on Reed Street in Liberty. Now, to be clear, Fu is a female and allegedly pulled down the client's shorts and touched him inappropriately without his consent. The client told police that he immediately left the business and reported the incident. So that in Liberty.
Number 3.
Next up in our 6 at 6, sad news in Lenexa, as the fire department is mourning the loss of one of its own. Department announced yesterday that engineer Sean O'Brien died off duty on Monday. O'Brien had worked for the Lenexa Fire Department since 2015. The department said that out of respect for O'Brien's family, no other information will be shared at this time, and the funeral services have yet to be announced.
Number 4.
Next up, an update from the Kansas State fraternity, where Jack Fleischacker, 19 years old, fell from a second-story window and died in the last few days. We now are learning that the incident, which occurred early on Saturday, comes from the same fraternity in 2022 at KU, the Sigma Chi House, that was shut down by the national organization for participating in years of hazing activities and lying about it to national leaders. Now, what's happening at the K-State Sigma Chi House and the KU Sigma Chi House may not have anything to do with each other. However, it is notable that this same fraternity at KU was shut down for hazing a couple of years ago when this happens at Kansas State just a few days back. Is there a connection there? I don't know. The investigation into Fleischacker's death is still being investigated by Riley County authorities, but it is notable.
Number 5.
Next up in the 6 at 6, gas prices surging here in Kansas and Missouri. The average price in Kansas hit $3.76 a gallon. In Missouri, it's $3.83. That's an 80-cent jump since the war in Iran began in late February. The national average is now $4.30 a gallon. That is the highest in 4 years.
Number 6.
And Chiefs rookie minicamp. Let's go there. Chiefs announcing jersey numbers for the rookies. Mansour Delane, number 5. Peter Woods, number 99. And R. Mason Thomas, number 34. Those are the defensive numbers that you want to keep an eye on. I like number 5 for the cornerback, and I love 99 for the D tackle.
That's a fun, getting the numbers is always a fun time.
It's a fun time. The 6 at 6 is always a fun time as well, and it's in the books here on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. We got more Greg Gutfeld tickets next hour. We also have your final chance on this show to win those tickets to Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, or Hank Williams Jr. 7 o'clock hour is coming up next. I just read something in the Wall Street Journal that literally is something I have been saying for a long time. And I know I'm not alone in this, but it was just the latest reminder, and I wanted to share it with you at 7:04. Good morning. Happy Friday. We got Governor Laura Kelly coming up in 1 hour. Pastor Adam Hamilton will be here at 8:30 on KCMO 95.7 FM. Greg Gutfeld, sweet tickets for Sunday at Cable Dahmer coming up at the bottom of the hour. So we had this shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday, right? And the entire nation starts talking about it, a third assassination attempt against President Trump in the last 18 months, 24 months. And Barack Obama puts out one of the more absurd statements you could put out in the wake of what happened on Saturday. You know, like many things Obama puts out, they sound so good until you dig an inch below the surface. So Obama puts out the statement, and, it's got all the nice Obama-isms. It reads really well. We reject the idea that violence has any place in our democracy. But then he goes on to say we don't yet have the details about the motives behind Saturday night's shooting. Now, by the time that Obama sent out this statement on X, we did know things about the alleged shooter. We knew that he trafficked in far-left ideology. He was on apps like Blue Sky, which is a left-wing version of Twitter, X. And this guy bought into every crazy conspiracy about Trump, rapist, pedophile, dictator, all these different things. We know that Cole Thomas Allen drank deeply out of that well of misinformation. But Obama didn't care. Didn't fit his narrative, but he's so slick and smooth about it. He makes it sound good. You want to buy into whatever Obama's selling. He's a salesman. And he's a good salesman, at least when it comes to himself. He's not a good salesman for other people. That's the one thing we learned about him, right? He's not a good salesman for other people. He's a good salesman for himself. And this Wall Street Journal piece that dropped yesterday was headlined Obama's Dinner Theater. Why did he say that? The White House Correspondent Dinner shooter motive was a mystery. And the article goes on to break it down and talk about how Obama's really a slickster, right? But the end of the article is what I wanted to share with you, because this is something I've said for a long time. If you don't like Donald Trump, if you want to blame Donald Trump for our political climate in this country, you have to blame Obama. You have to. Donald Trump only became the president of the United States because of Barack Obama. If Trump had run at any other point in American history while he was alive, he would have never won. Donald Trump became to be who he was politically because of Barack Obama. And the Wall Street Journal article and column notes this here at the very end. They write here, Mr. Obama's most conspicuous political failure is that he governed in a way that made the nation receptive to Mr. Trump. He contributed to a culture-wide sense that the nation's elites, political and cultural, were at war with non-elites and with America itself, engendering a reaction. And with his pen and phone, he opened the door for the exercises of executive power for which the left now criticizes Mr. Trump. The article and column wraps up with this. Mr. Obama's not going anywhere. He's also unlikely to realize that he helped create the political situation he believes now requires his sustained presence. Some on the left have had enough of him. For others, the sheen might further dim once they realize or remember that he's the ultimate instance of this is how you got Donald Trump. That is exactly right. There is no 10 years of Donald Trump as the largest political figure in the world without Obama governing and operating as commander-in-chief the way that he did. When John McCain shows up and, comes off as the gentleman, and he's defending Obama in that town hall back in 2008, And then along comes Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, two guys who, whether you agree or disagree, were gentlemen by the definition of the word. And they're called racist and sexist and the whole thing. People throw up their hands and they say, you know what? I'm done with this. You want the bull in the china shop? We'll give you the bull in the china shop. And along comes Trump because these guys were gentlemen before him, got the party absolutely nowhere, and Trump says, I'm done with it. I'm going to shake this thing up and see how much you like this. And for tens of millions of Americans, they said, give me more of that, baby. And that was ushered in by Barack Obama and to a lesser extent Joe Biden. But, Biden's the one who was talking about, hey, they're going to put you all back in chains and all these crazy things that were wildly inappropriate. And here's Obama coming to save the day in his own mind. And that's what he's been doing now since he left office, trying to save the country in his own mind from a country that he helped create. The data shows that racial harmony in this country peaked in 2010. Why? Well, in part, we had our first black president. But it went precipitously downhill over the last 15 years since Obama got reelected. Why would that be? Well, maybe that was always the goal. We couldn't really have racial harmony in the country because that wouldn't have been good for certain people's political aspirations. They thrive off of the idea of not having racial harmony, sad to say. And now you've seen this decline over 15 years when we hit a peak in 2010. Obama gets reelected. How is that possible? Well, because for some people, dividing us, and you're seeing this with the Supreme Court case and the reaction to that 2 days ago, for some people, dividing us over race is beneficial to them. And no one saw more benefit from that other than Barack Obama, despite the fact that he could have been the guy that put an end to all of this and said, look at me, look at my story, look what I've achieved. And he chose not to do it. So I thought that column was just outstanding yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, just reminding people how we got to this point. And Obama is the facilitator of it, and that's how we ended up with Trump, like it or not. That's a large part of how we got Trump in the first place. Now, to Saturday night, there's new video that's coming out from the shooter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And oh my goodness, if you haven't seen the video, it does not make Secret Service look good at all. I mean, it is, listen, I get we're all human beings and we let our guard down, but this is just, I might find some Paul Blart Mall cops who do a better job than these guys did on Saturday night.
It almost looked like hotel security. And it could have been, some of them were hotel security.
Maybe one or two, but I was doing some research on this last night. And you got guys and gals standing along the wall with their hands behind their backs. And they were confirmed to be federal agents. I know we're trying to give them benefit of the doubt and being like, okay, maybe it's just hotel. No, these are federal agents. So two things stood out to me. Number one, you can see a canine dog sniff out the gunman right as he goes through double doors and is kind of hanging outside the entranceway to the Correspondents' Dinner. And the canine follows the shooter twice into the hallway. And the dopey guard is like pulling the dog, being like, get away, get away. No, the dog's doing his job, bro. The dog is literally sniffing out this guy, doing his job. And the officer is treating it like it's Woody, like it's my dog, my Havanese, who just kind of sniffs everything he can get his nose on.
The dog was the best cop in that room.
By a mile. By a mile. The guy's yanking at the canine as if it's just some random dog who's like, hey, stop bothering that guy. It's like, no, he's doing his job. And you're too dense to understand what's going on. And within a half a second of this cop yanking the canine away from the shooter then makes a mad dash out of the double doors towards the Correspondents' Dinner. And then the next disaster happens. There are 12 people standing around the entrance, like the security entrance to get into the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And out of the 12 of them, one of them is looking. One of them is actually staring at the entrance. You got people standing there with their hands behind their backs along the wall, just kind of hanging out. You got another guy who's just staring at the ground. Once again, human nature, I understand it. You let your guard down. But man, and I know the president has spoken glowingly of the Secret Service and the job that they did, and he's actually taken the high road. He's doing the right thing. But I'm looking at this, and I'm like, who's in charge here? I mean, how I'd love to hear from somebody in law enforcement to explain how this possibly happens when you look at this video. And I'll share it right now on X at Pete Mundo if you want to see it, since I can't really share it with you visually here on the show. You can see it for yourself, but nothing about this makes law enforcement look good at all. It's a really bad scene.
If we could go back in time to that about 20 seconds before the shooter ran through, I would just let the dog go and let him have at that guy.
Well, yeah, the dog clearly was doing its job and smelt something. And, I mean, the cop's like yanking the dog away. I can't get over it.
I'm a little cynical because this is not the first time we've seen Secret Service have trouble unholstering a weapon there immediately.
Well, that's true as well.
I would have thought that would have been a major skill to have.
The only guy who actually was focused on the shooter is the one who got shot in his bulletproof vest. I mean, it's just, you look at this stuff, it is unbelievable how bad this was handled. And thankfully, nobody got killed. It's kind of amazing in hindsight. Nobody got killed. I'm kind of also shocked that none of these guys hit the suspected shooter. Like, how did all of them miss? That's the other part of this. It's like, what is this? Me taking to the girls to Bass Pro Shop with the fake guns there for 25 cents a pop? What's going on here? 913-408-7957. That's the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio. The text line. Pete, that's why it's fake. It was staged. Oh, stop. Please don't do it. It's a Friday. Don't do this.
He's a troubled guy.
913-408-7957. I want to get to your calls, especially, if you're in law enforcement, you've done this for a living. Maybe you've seen the video. If not, it's up on X at Pete Mundo. How does this happen? Next. All right, you're getting ready for the weekend. And did you know that April was the fourth highest rain month in Kansas City history? Well, now's the time to take a look at that foundation. Look for any cracks in the walls. Look for any water that might be leaking in or something just feels off. Kansas City Pier is Kansas City's foundation repair experts. Just look up kcpier.com and know that these are local people right here in Kansas City. And when you call them, someone in town picks up the phone. Not a call center, not someone overseas, not some, robot, a human who knows this town. They're locally owned and locally operated at KC Pier. And they were at my house last week. And what's great is they'll give you an ABC solution options so you know what your home needs, why it needs it, and what makes sense for you. They'll even give you ideas that you can fix on your own. That's just the kind of business KC Pier is. Give you a lifetime transferable warranty, 1 and 2 year monitoring visits to make sure your foundation is performing the way it should. Brian was at my house last week. He looked at 23,000 homes over his career, and he's like my age. It's crazy. These guys are total pros. So if you're seeing cracking walls, water in the basement, something feels off after all this rain, protect your home equity now before potentially something happens, and get KC Pier out for a structural consultation. KC Pier, Kansas City owned and home of the lifetime warranty. Go to kcpier.com.
from the nation's heartland. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Bill O'Reilly noting that there, and it's something that I had read yesterday, that basically Hollywood is holding Disney hostage with Jimmy Kimmel. Sorry, Jim. Should I just call him James? Jim, James. I mean, what grown man goes by Jimmy? I still don't get that. I don't understand it. But anyway, Jim Kimmel is being held hostage by, or I should say Disney is being held hostage by Hollywood. The belief is that basically Hollywood is saying the agencies, the executives within the agencies like CAA are saying, you fire Jim, you get rid of Jim, we're cutting off access to all of our top tier talent. Now, if I'm Disney, I would call the bluff because all Hollywood does is worship fame and money. They don't have any principles. So if Disney actually says, you know what, we're going to call your bluff, CAA. And by the way, we're going to fire Jim. And then when we have a big deal we're doing on Disney Plus or ABC or whatever, we're going to call you up. We're going to offer up one of your people a big contract. And you know what? Let's see if you actually turn it down since you actually have no moral compass anyway.
I was going to say, because we've been getting such handsome rewards from your stable already.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I agree with
what
you,
a
John.
threat. We got guys like Mark right here. He was in
that
Ted
show.
Lasso, right?
Yes,
Right?
yes. That
Yeah,
unnamed
there are plenty
show.
of people looking to work.
Exactly right. I just think that it is, if I'm Disney, if I'm Bob Iger, I call the bluff and I actually see if CAA and these actors and these producers and these writers would actually turn down a monster contract from Disney when their moral compass is defined by fame and fortune. That's what I would do. So I hear O'Reilly say this stuff. I've seen that report elsewhere, and I'm like, how is Disney actually buying into this? That's crazy. Speaking of things that people are buying into, that's absolutely crazy. I saw the story yesterday from the New York Times of all places and all people. And the headline is The Rise of High-Range, Less Expensive Electric Vehicles. They note here, even as the electric vehicle market has slumped, there are more long-range electric vehicles under $40,000 than ever before. They specifically note here, some automakers have released entirely new models under $40,000 in recent years. They note the end of the tax credit led others to drop prices on existing cars. Tesla introduced a trimmed-down, significantly cheaper Model 3, and Hyundai slashed its EV prices by roughly the same amount as the tax credit. What's the story here? Since Republicans cut subsidies for electric vehicles, the new models have become more affordable and reliable. Oh, my goodness. So you mean the government propping up industry actually doesn't lead to lower prices. It just makes government officials look like they're doing something for the little guy. When if they just got out of the way in the first place, they would actually do more for the little guy through competition. Holy smokes.
Talk about a bombshell.
Oh, all right. You want to see Greg Gutfeld on Sunday in a suite? Free parking pass, 7th caller right now, 913-408-7957.
from Overland Park to Parkville. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Who's our winner this hour, John?
Beth in Napoleon going to have to change her plans, she said. She had something coming Sunday, but she's going to change her plans and head to Greg Gutfeld.
All right, good for her.
Now, we have more chances to win this morning coming up next hour. The next time we give away tickets here in 15 minutes, it'll be for one of the 3 country shows, just so you know.
Yeah, man.
So if you're trying for Greg Gutfeld, it'll be next hour. And if you want the country show tickets, coming up here in about 15 minutes.
I feel like the government just giving away free stuff all
morning.
Free
stuff,
Jeez,
right? Free stuff rules.
It's too much, though, man. It's too much.
Too much, sir. No more winning,
no
please.
I can't take the winning anymore. I can't take all the free stuff. All right, yeah, 10 minutes away. We'll give away your chance to win tickets to see Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, or Hank Williams Jr. You pick the show that you want to go to, all right? Can someone explain to me what the heck's going on with these massage parlors around Kansas City? This is just getting too much. It really is. Do they still call them massage
therapists?
Parlors, therapists, whatever you want to call them. All right.
Den of iniquity.
Yeah, we've got this lady up in Liberty yesterday. It was reported that 56-year-old Tong Fu has been charged with one felony count of second-degree sodomy in connection with an incident that took place at Medi Massage on Reed Street up in Liberty. Court records show the victim reported that during a massage, Fu allegedly pulled down his shorts, touched him inappropriately without his consent. The client told police he immediately left the business and reported the incident. Liberty police responded to the massage business and they found Fu. Officers reported that the suspect's appearance and the interior layout of the massage business matched the description provided by the victim. According to the police, the defendant initially told officers that only female clients had been seen at the business that day, but investigators noted discrepancies between appointment receipts and the business's stated opening time. Surveillance cameras also observed inside the business, but officers were told the system did not record footage. Fu was arrested on the same day, and her next court date is May 28th. Now, we've got at least 8 women. So that was a guy. Now we have at least 8 women who have spoken out against another massage therapist. This guy is based in Douglas County, Kansas, accusing him of sexual assault and rape at a Baldwin City massage studio. Back on Wednesday, April 8th, Baldwin City Police Department shared a media release on social media regarding the arrest of 44-year-old Aaron Borger of Hartford, a part-time massage therapist who was being held on suspicion of rape and aggravated sexual battery. Police said Borger worked at Grown Yoga, located on High Street in Baldwin City, as well as a chiropractor's office in Grandview. So 2 days after that, Borger was formally charged in Douglas County. And since then, there have been 7 more alleged victims who have accused Borger of similar crimes over the span of his 2-year career as a licensed massage therapist. This has led to additional charges being filed. Now, I'm not a massage guy. I don't think I've ever gotten a massage, come to think of it. I thought I might have gotten one on our honeymoon, but actually I remember Kate got one and I just went to go play really bad golf, which in hindsight I probably should have gotten a massage. Sounds like a lot better time than playing bad golf. But in the end of the day, I don't like strangers touching me. There's nothing about that I find comfortable or relaxing. I just don't like the idea of someone I don't know touching me.
Well, people come around and do good shoulder neck massage for like businesses. They've come around, they're individual people. They'll bring a table into your business. Those are therapeutic, I guess, But I understand that's just kind of a whole personal level thing for you, right?
It is. If I need someone to loosen up my back, I just have one of my toddlers walk on my back.
Right.
Literally. I just lie down on the ground and I just have them stand on me. And it kind of works. And I'd rather them stand on my back than someone I don't know kind of rubbing me around weird.
Probably rather have Woody.
I'll take the dog too, okay? I say, Woody, you walk around on my back and I'll give you a good belly rub, all right, buddy? And every time he goes, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. He always addresses me as
winning,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, he always addresses me as sir. He's a very good dog 14 years later. But it's never been my thing. But I know for some of you, it's like a part of your routine. You might, get one a month or whatever. I'll get Kate one for her birthday or, Mother's Day.
Chronic injuries, or people that have chronic pain.
Yeah.
Injuries.
I understand some people really like them. It's just, it's not my thing. That being the case, when I will book Kate a massage, I always book it with a female. Okay? I mean, you may say that that's judgmental. I don't care. The story in Liberty, when you see a lady allegedly doing this to a guy, that's pretty rare. That's awfully rare. When you're going to read headlines like this, let's be honest, it's far more likely to be what happened in Baldwin City, where it's a guy allegedly involved with 8 female victims. I mean, that's almost always the case in something like this. So I hate to be judgmental, but sorry, I'm judgmental on this stuff,
Don't check the happy ending box. It's not an hors d'oeuvre after the therapy.
Please. No, don't. And try to find a place that appears to be above board. Okay?
There you go. That's true.
I mean, I could probably Google map these places and be like, I might predict that something like that would happen there.
Might be a fun game. Pictures of storefronts, yes or no?
Yes. I mean, I could probably do that and be like, this looks like the kind of spot where this might happen in Baldwin City. You know what? I'm going to do that right now, if you don't mind. If you don't mind humoring me here for a second, okay? Let's go to the map. Let's look it up. Oh, I only have photos of the inside. I can't see a good photo of the outside.
Are you looking for the location?
Yeah.
Was it called Ohm at last?
Yes.
Or something?
There it is. I'm looking at it here. It looks, you know what? It looks relatively harmless. I'm not going to lie. I'm seeing it right here in Baldwin City. And it's right on the corner, right on.
I was going to say, when I was in Baldwin, the massage therapy lounge was down at the end of the hall in Gessner. The dorms there.
Jeez. Oh, my gosh. You can't make this stuff up sometimes. You really can't. But it's just one of those things that everyone's got their thing. But if I needed another reason to never go near a massage therapist, I'm sorry. This is it.
You said the other one was an Independence?
Liberty.
Liberty.
Okay. Don't slander Independence like that.
I got
okay,
enough
Mark?
troubles.
Yeah.
When was the last time Massage Watson was in town with the Browns?
Oh, jeez. Deshaun Watson. Oh, no. Did you have to bring that up there, Mark? Really?
Sorry.
All right. I'll just say this much. Medi Massage in Liberty looks like exactly the place this would happen. Okay? I mean, it's like if there's a place this is going to happen, this Medi Massage spot it's literally a house on the corner of Highway 291 and Reed Street. I mean, it's that spot. I'll just leave it at that. When you get to the office this morning, you can Google map it yourself, and I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me on this. If you agree with me on nothing, you will agree with me on this. There's no doubt about it. No doubt in my mind.
Sometimes I'll drive by a place and it just says massage, and I'm like, I don't know if I'd trust that place.
Yeah.
Just massage in red letters.
Yeah. Well, that's literally what this is. Massage in red letters. Medi Massage, side of a home right there in Liberty. Avoid at all costs, please. And it makes you wonder, why was that guy going to that massage parlor anyway? Like, who drives by one of those spots and is like, oh, you know what? I'm a little tight. I could use one right now. Oh, that looks like a stand-up joint, said nobody ever who's not blind.
The reviews were great.
Well, it does have a 4.8 star. 30 reviews. Do with that what you want.
Sure.
Oh, my gosh. Well, someone who might need a massage after last night, Scott Jennings, CNN. He was not having it. Scott was just here in Kansas City 2 weeks ago for the Kansans for Life event. And then he was in Wichita for their event this past Tuesday. So he did KFL 2 weeks ago here in Overland Park. He was amazing. He did his radio show from just down the hallway. Then he was in Wichita Tuesday night. Well, last night he's debating the Iran war on CNN. And I didn't think this was, I don't know, Scott, maybe he wasn't sleeping well. He had a bad night's sleep, all this travel to and from Kansas. I don't know. But he had a moment last night where I was like, whoa, this is not a side of him I saw at all. While he was here in this building, emceeing his event in Overland Park, he lost it, and we had to bleep him out here. Here was Scott Jennings last night.
I was only a few years old while you were in the administration defending prior endless wars. Now this war is failing.
8 weeks is endless to you?
Okay, you said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
You have the attention span of a gnat? Is that what you
I
have?
debated you on TV 4 to 6 weeks ago, and you said we were weeks away from it. Now you're making condescending remarks because you can't defend the fact that this war is not going your way. Wait, one more time.
Not
Can you
going your way.
one political concession. Name one political concession.
Whoa, guys,
Honestly, I'm not
excuse me.
going to have this guy's
Everybody,
in my face.
everybody, hang tight.
Honestly.
Okay. No, everybody, calm down. Okay. We're having a debate. You can respond to the points that he's making.
Can you name a political concession that we've got?
So he's going off on this guy, Adam Mockler, who is like 23 years old, give or take. And he was upset that Adam was talking to Scott. They're sitting next to each other, and Adam's talking with his hands, and he's kind of got his hands in Scott's face. And Scott says, "Get your bleeping hands out of my face." And of all the things Scott Jennings has dealt with on that show, I'm admittedly kind of surprised that moment is the one that sent him, a little bit off the edge there. I can't imagine how he does it every night as the one guy on the panel on CNN who's got a little bit of common sense. But I would have thought it would have been somebody else, maybe a more veteran person, that would have gotten him to that point. But then again, maybe it's the fact that this guy's like a 23-year-old YouTuber where he was like, dude, stop, cut it out, okay?
What am I doing here, Yes. Come on.
Maybe it's like he's at least got some semblance of respect for peers of his who disagree with him.
I would think.
But when he's sitting next to a 23-year-old who's kind of got his hands in his face, he's like, this kid's a punk. I'm not putting up with this.
Bingo.
Yeah, I think that's what it must have been. But it was quite a clip from last night on CNN. And I'll tell you what, we did not see this side of Scott Jennings while he was here the last couple of weeks doing some shows.
Nope.
He's a total pro, calm, cool, relaxed. But something about being next to a 23-year-old YouTuber sent him off the deep end last night. If I had tickets for Scott Jennings, I'd give them to him as well. But we only have tickets for you right now. 7th caller, 913-408-7957. That's how you join us on KCMO. And you can pick your show, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, or Hank Williams Jr. this summer at Morton Amphitheater. 913-408-7957. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly is coming up in 20 minutes. Don't miss it. And then we've got Pastor Adam Hamilton at 8:30. All happening right here on KCMO Talk Radio. Aldean is cleaning
Beat a man.
up. Jeez. Jason Aldean now with, 7 of our 9 winners this week are picking Jason Aldean over Hank Williams Jr. and Luke Bryan. Wow.
Yep. Shauna in Kansas City going this time. That was her choice.
All right.
Yep.
Shauna, congratulations. Okay. Should have just given away Aldean tickets all week. Why give him an option? Would have been fine with that.
I guess we'll have to have a staff party at the Luke Bryan show.
Yeah, there might be a few extras lying around for old Luke. Gosh, poor guy. Well, one more chance to win with Keatsman at 10:45 today on KCMO. I'm like dying to know now if Luke Bryan can get a win around here. That's crazy. Because I got to pick the shows. They said, Pete, pick 3 shows from the country music rundown this summer at Morton Amphitheater. And I'm like, all right, I didn't want to pick all the same. I figured Hank Williams Jr. for the but for the older demographic. Jason Aldean for kind of that 35 to 54-year-old couple or guy especially. And then I'm like, the ladies like Luke. I'll throw a bone to the ladies in the audience. But, hey, Shauna, lady, she wants Jason Aldean.
Maybe not so much in terms of age of appeal. There's the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And then there's what we used to call in the 80s the Coca-Cola Cowboys. And so Jason's a cowboy. Hank's a cowboy from way back.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola for Luke, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, too,
But
John.
also, too, and I've lost track, but sometimes when artists have newer releases out, I don't know how long it's been, Luke's on TV all the time and things like that.
Look at Fox right now.
Uh-huh.
Luke, Jason Aldean.
There
he is
with Steve Ducey.
With Steve Ducey on the riverfront. Look at that. That's great.
Wearing the cowboy hat.
Wearing the cowboy hat.
He's ready to work.
He's ready to rock. He's got a new album that's, I guess, out right now. Songs About Us
Well,
is the new album.
that's part of the appeal of this.
Today.
Yeah.
Oh, it did. It came out
Dropped today. Okay.
I didn't even realize that. All right.
Bada bing.
There you go. Jason Aldean, the winner again. Shauna in Kansas City, congratulations to you. Laura Kelly is 10 minutes away. Hang on to that. Governor of Kansas joining us here on KCMO. I saw this last night, and I was like, really? You're going to sit here and tell me that you're broke and the woe is me routine? Well, that's the story at a Lee's Summit. Lee's Summit city officials are considering an array of significant cuts to staff and programs as they prepare for the city's new budget, which will go into effect in July. So the city said it's going to cut about $4.6 million in services and implement a hiring freeze and jobs cuts to save around $7.5 million. Around 72 full-time equivalent positions would be cut under the plan. Some of those cuts would be to vacant positions. The city has around 600 full-time equivalent positions funded under the general fund in the fiscal year budget of 2026. So I just happened to go back and I was like, all right, what's the deal here? What's going on with the budget for Lee's Summit? And I don't want to get in the weeds, but I just want to put this into some perspective for you when you realize how much money these municipalities are spending around Kansas City and how much they've grown government just over the last few years. I mean, it's really obscene. And it should be concerning to anybody. I don't care what your politics are. It doesn't matter to me. You should be offended by this. All right. So the proposed expenditures in Lee's Summit for 2024-2025 was $397 million. Their fiscal year 2020 budget, going back 5 years prior to that, was $236 million. The population of Lee's Summit has gone from over that time about 100,000 people to 107,000 people. The population's up 7%, and their government expenditures are up 68%. And now they're like, we have no money. We must lay people off. Services will be rolled back. Oh, boy, tough times in Lee's Summit. Goodness, guys, come on. Now, they'll look at this, and I did go into the numbers. A lot of the increase is tied to capital projects. All right? The capital projects funds are $161 million, and 5 years ago they were $50 million. Okay, well, you know what? Fine. What are you spending money on then for capital improvements? What's that all about? I mean, it doesn't matter what side of state line we're talking about. These municipalities are completely out of control, and for them to want an ounce of sympathy over having to make some cutbacks and rollbacks, you know what? The people have been doing that for 5 years after inflation. And now you want to sit there and look for sympathy on having a couple of cutbacks? Please spare me.
Why just let Lee Summit have the benefit? Leadership there wants to be in the Jackson County chair.
Yeah, that's true. Bill Barrett, their mayor, wants to be the next county
We could
executive.
bring that to countywide.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Keep an eye on that.
Heads up.
I don't have a strong opinion either way on Bill, but you know what? If you oversee a 68% increase in your budget in Lee Summit when your population grew about 7%, I've got some questions.
Questions? Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of questions, I've got some questions for the governor of Kansas. Laura Kelly joins us to look back on this legislative session and more next here on 95.7 FM KCMO and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Well, the legislative session, of course, is wrapped up in Kansas, and it was the final legislative session for Governor Laura Kelly, who is kind enough to join us here for a few minutes on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You can always stream us on the KCMO Talk Radio app or at KCMOTalkRadio.com. Governor, good morning. Thank you for being here. As you look back on the legislative session, what would you call the biggest win of 2026?
Oh, I think the establishment of the Office of Early Childhood, sort of consolidating all of our early childhood programs under one umbrella so that we can provide even more quality services at a better price. So that would be my number one. And close behind it was the greater emphasis on a water plan and something to establish a foundation and ultimately a dedicated funding source so that we can resolve our water issue once and for all.
And then how about that thing or topic or issue where you feel like the state did not do enough this year?
Well, special education. We have been trying to increase the funding that we provide for special education. We have a problem that the federal government does not meet their obligation. They forced that down on the states, and Kansas has just not stepped up. And we need to do that because the schools have got to provide those services. And so what they're having to do now is to dip into other funds that would go for other programs for other kids to be able to meet that mandated responsibility. So I think that's the biggest lack from this legislative session.
When you look at that issue, I know it's been one that both sides of the aisle have had opinions on. I have seen and read that Kansas in particular spends more money than the national average on a per pupil basis. I think it's top 15 in the country on a per pupil basis. So do you feel like these schools in part can do a better job allocating their resources versus just giving them more money? Is that potentially an option in your estimation?
Oh, I think you always have to look at those kinds of things, and I would hope that our school districts are. I know that we from the legislative and administrative branch, are constantly working with them to ensure that they're spending their money the most efficient way that they can. But I don't think it resolves the special education issue. I think I don't think there's enough loose change in the other parts of our public education system to meet the demands of the special education system. So that I do think is going to require additional funds. And I really wish that the federal government would finally step up. And, when they passed that law 50 years ago or however long, it would be nice if they would have put the money with the mandate.
So are you saying the feds in both administrations, or I should say both sides of the aisle going back several years, have failed to meet their commitment?
Yeah, absolutely. It is not a partisan thing. It is just strictly that the feds have not stepped up, and they never have. This has been since the day the bill was passed. They have not really truly met their obligation. So, it's a bipartisan problem.
Is that an issue in other states as well, or is that unique to Kansas?
No, it's absolutely all over the country. It's just something that they have fallen short on, and they have fallen short for years enough that I think most states have given up trying to get them to do it. I keep harping on it, but I think generally, they've sort of gotten away with it because they've just ignored it long enough that people have moved on to other issues.
Governor Kelly is here on KCMO. Session, of course, is in the books. All right, the property tax issue, Governor, I know that that is one that you vetoed a bill that came to your desk on trying to rein in property taxes across the state, which I know is a huge issue for people on both sides of the aisle. What was it about the bill that came to your desk that you specifically did not like? And I know, you're done as governor, but how does the state fix this growing problem for homeowners?
Well, I vetoed more than one of their property tax bills. And if I were still here, I'd continue to do that until the legislature takes the approach that we're going to absolutely have to take in order to come to any resolution on property taxes, and that is to bring the stakeholders to the table and have conversations back and forth with our local communities. If the legislature takes action on property tax, serious action, the kind of action that they have proposed, what they would end up doing is creating the same kind of fiscal crisis for our local communities, for our cities and our counties, that the tax experiment of 2012 created for the state. Property taxes are levied at the local level. I agree that they're too high. I've always thought they were too high. But the only way to bring them down is to partner with our local communities and help them pay for the services that they absolutely have to provide and give them the freedom to work with their own constituents to determine how they're going to produce those revenues.
So is that something then, so you really want to see, I mean, that's not legislation, you just want to see the county and city leaders, and you know what's going on here in Johnson County, you want to see them basically come to the table and figure out a way to, rein in spending to some extent? Because, I mean, Johnson County's up from 10 years ago, the county budget was like $900 million. Now they're pushing $2 billion in less than 10 years.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of growth in Johnson County, too. I think, that's what people don't talk about when they talk about the increase. That's because there are thousands more people living in Johnson County, a greater demand on services, whether it's fire or police or schools. That growth, which everybody loves because it means more jobs and, more money coming into the county, they have to realize that you got to pay for the infrastructure to support that growth, and I'm not saying that Johnson County has done everything absolutely right, but I'm saying that people, legislators, all elected officials need to be much more honest with people and stop making promises that they cannot keep, or if they keep them, are going to create other problems someplace else.
It does seem that way. Johnson County, I think I saw that the population growth over the last 10 years has been about 10%, from 580 to 640,000, give or take. And, their spending's doubled. So it does seem like there is partially a spending problem, even though I know the cost of things have gone up. So I know you've got your horse in the race to be the next governor, Ethan Corson. What would you advise him to do if he gets into the governor's mansion next year to try to help on this issue that Kansans are really feeling the pinch on?
Well, I would hope that the next governor, whoever it is just open and honest with the people of Kansas, and convinces the legislature to do the same, and then to convene these roundtables or whatever approach you want to take to coming up with a resolution, to have experts in the area of taxes, municipal funding, have all of those folks sitting around the table and really hammering it out and understanding that the state has got to be a partner with our local communities. What we have done is the same thing that the federal government has done to the states. For instance, the feds just cut the amount of administrative funding that they're going to send in for us to administer the food stamp program, SNAP. Right? So we have to now pick up another $16 million a year that had been part of the federal costs. We got to pick that up. What we have done on the state level to our local communities is we have withdrawn funding. A lot of this happened as a result of the tax experiment in 2012, and the state just ended up not having any money. And so we pushed down costs for community corrections, for instance, where we had been picking up some of that cost. We stopped paying that bill and pushed that all down on the local communities. And there are other areas where that has also been the case. And I think we just have to look at all of that and see where the state can take back some of their responsibility, which would then allow the locals to take a really good look at their levies and see where they could pull back.
Mm-hmm. Governor Kelly joining us here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, streaming as always on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Of course, probably the biggest news of the last few months came with the Chiefs deciding they're going to come across the state line and move out to Wyandotte County. As you look back on that deal, Governor, and what's happened over the last few months, what is, if any, a regret that you have on how that deal was put together and where this has gone over the last several months in Kansas?
I have no regrets. I am absolutely thrilled for the state that we were able to convince the Kansas City Chiefs to move across the state line. What that will do for Kansas in the long term is immeasurable. It moves us literally into the major leagues. And that will have ripple effects across a lot of issues, particularly economic development. Kansas, we've already done, I think, a very good job of putting Kansas on the EcoDevo map. You've seen us be able to attract a record number of new businesses, new capital investment coming in the state, new jobs developed. By the Chiefs coming over here, it sends a huge message to the world, but particularly in our business world, that Kansas is a place to be. And I think it sends it not only to businesses, but also to young people who are looking for creating a career, starting a family. That maybe Kansas is someplace to take a look at where you might want to live. The Chiefs are the attraction, and then I think just everything else that Kansas has to offer in terms of quality of life, quality of our schools. We'll seal the deal with those folks. So I just see it as a major plus. And I'm sort of sorry I won't be here to not throw out the first pitch. You don't do that in football, but I'm really looking forward to it. I have absolutely no regrets. I think it's probably one of the best things we could have done for our state overall.
Speaking of throwing out a first pitch, did you want the Royals as well? How badly did you want them?
Of course, I would have loved if the Royals had come over here, but in my heart of hearts, I think of baseball as an urban sport. I'm from New York City originally. Used to take the subway to the Yankee Stadium, so that's my vision of baseball. And so I think in the long run, everything worked out just perfectly. The Royals be downtown Kansas City, and the Chiefs will be around the Legends. And I just don't think it could have worked out better for the region as a whole. And we have always, since the beginning of my administration, seen the KC Metro as one region. We have worked together with folks from Missouri to ensure that whole area sees growth. We work together to get Panasonic. We work together to get the World Cup. With all of those kinds of things. And I think the fact that we've got the Chiefs on our side, they've got the Royals on their side, just reinforces that whole sort of regional approach to economic development and life in general. And
the economic development plans in general, I know that this has been something that, in some cases has been bipartisan. We've seen leadership on the Republican side join you for the Chiefs deal and Panasonic and things like that. But why is it then that Kansas continues to deal with a net flow out migration? We're not gaining people. We're still losing people despite the economic development plans. And how is there evidence that the plan is working if we're still losing people? Pete, I don't have the data in front of me, but I'm not sure that that's the case anymore. I mean, the in-migration is not as great as I would wish it to be. And the out-migration is still greater, but I don't think in the balance that it is where it was 10 years ago. I think we really have made progress on that, and we have to continue. And I think you can't expect instant, gratification either. These kinds of things are planted, and then you see the growth as time goes on. So I think we just can't measure everything based on the statistic of this day. Mm-hmm. But I do think that
the statistics are better than what people are saying.
Governor, of course, you, as I noted, are going to be and are supporting Ethan Corson in the governor's race. Adam Hamilton announced yesterday that he is going to run for U.S. Senate. He's going to be on this show. Will you be endorsing him as well at some point, or do you want to do it right now on the show?
Nice try, Pete. No, I have met with Adam Hamilton. I have known him for a while. One of his parishioners, Nancy Brown, was a former state rep, and I worked very closely with her long before I even got into the Senate. So I spoke at her funeral service at his church. So I've known him for a while. He's solid, salt of the earth. What you see is what you get. In terms of endorsements, though, that's Senate, that's federal. I have made it a habit to stay as far away from Washington issues as I possibly can and just focus on Kansas. So I don't know that we'll be seeing an endorsement, particularly in the primary.
Okay, and will you be planning to barnstorm the state with Mr. Corson this fall?
I don't know about barnstorm. I do plan to go around in support of his candidacy, yes.
Got it. Well, Governor, thank you very much for the time. We will connect as well down the road as we get closer to the election season, and we appreciate you being here on KCMO.
Okay. Thank you, Pete. Take care. Have a good day.
You as well. That is Governor Laura Kelly here on KCMO 95.7 FM. Appreciate her time. 913-408-7957. That's how you join us. Pastor Adam Hamilton will be here coming up in just over 10 minutes on 95.7 FM.
from Smithville to Shawnee Mission. You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Governor Kelly just wrapping up with us here on KCMO. I know she doesn't want to get involved in the U.S. Senate race, but hey, I had to ask her, and she said some nice things about Pastor Hamilton, who's going to be here in just over 5 minutes on KCMO Talk Radio after he announced he's going to run as a Democrat. And if he wins the nomination, he will go up against Roger Marshall. So that's coming up in a few minutes here on KCMO Talk Radio. Before we get to that, I've only got a little bit of time here, so I want to play this clip. I haven't played it yet this morning. The president being asked about wearing a bulletproof vest going forward, answering this the only way that Donald Trump can answer it.
Is there talks about you potentially wearing a bulletproof vest moving forward, given you have now been shot at?
I don't know if I can handle looking 20 pounds heavier. These guys, they look so good. Some of these guys are physical specimens. Some of these guys are trouble. They say, get him away from me. I don't want to be near him. If you want to gain 20 to 25 pounds, get a vest. And live, frankly, the vest did an amazing job because it took a bullet close up. And he didn't even want to go to the hospital. I mean, we sent him to the hospital just in case. But
Trump saying, I don't know if I can afford to look 20 pounds heavier. I mean, that you realize how quick that is to have that sense of humor and turn it around like that as the question's being asked. You can't teach that stuff. You just can't. Now, there's a way to look 20 pounds lighter or lose 20 pounds if he wants to do it.
It's a fat shot drug.
He could do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but he could do it. But I thought that was just a great line. I mean, literally, he gets asked about how many times people have tried to kill him, and he's like, I don't want to look 20 pounds heavier. Pastor Adam Hamilton, launching his U.S. Senate campaign yesterday, joins us. But first, your chance to win Gutfeld tickets in the suite with a parking pass. 913-408-7957. Seventh caller right now.
Coming up at 10 o'clock, it's Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio, right after Pete Mundo and Mundo in the Morning.
Well, yesterday, the big news coming right here in Johnson County, Pastor Adam Hamilton, of course, Church of the Resurrection, announcing that he is going to run for United States Senate here in Kansas as a Democrat. He is joining us on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio. We are always on the KCMO Talk Radio app as well. Adam, good morning. Thank you for being here on KCMO Talk Radio. And what was that moment for you when you said, I'm doing this, I'm all in?
Well, thank you for asking. Thanks for having me on your program, too. I really appreciate it. You know, I think it was listening to Kansans. There's two things I'll say, listening to Kansas and prayer. So I went out and spent several weeks visiting a couple days a week across Kansas, 18 towns, and I was hearing people, and I just wanted to know, what are they feeling? What are they experiencing? When I heard people talking about their fears, talking about their concerns about what's happening in Washington, you know, I felt a great compassion for that. I thought, I think somebody's got to do something. I feel maybe I could be the one. I'm not sure. And then a lot of prayer. And I tell you, there came this one moment where I just felt like, okay, I felt a peace about this. Like, this is what I believe God has called me to do at this time, and that I want to be able to help. I want to make a difference in our country, and I love our country, and I love the state of Kansas, and I want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. I think a lot of people look at what's happening in the world and say, well, somebody should do something. And I was saying that too. Somebody should do something. And then finally somebody said, why not you? And I began to think, maybe why not me?
So when you announced you were going to explore this possibility, the initial plan was to explore whether or not to enter the race as an independent. That obviously is not going to happen. So what was the moment, and why did you say, I'm going to do this as a Democrat?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in every one of the 18 towns I went to, the first thing out of the chute when I would talk to people about, I'm considering running as an independent, the first thing people would say is, please don't do that. Please run as a Democrat. Choose a lane, pick a party, because we don't think you can win as an independent, and we don't want to waste a vote for somebody who's not ultimately going to win. And we feel like you're going to split the vote. And I had Republicans telling me this, like, look, I don't think you should run as a Republican in the primary because I don't think you can beat the incumbent. And, you know, we're looking for change. Run as a Democrat. I had more Republicans tell me that than Democrats. Run as a Democrat. And, you know, be an independent-minded Democrat, which is who I am. What I really want to do is build bridges. I'm proud to be running as a Democrat, but I want to be really intentional about building bridges across the aisle, because what's broken right now in part is the fact that the two parties are not working together. They are not working together to solve problems. So we can send astronauts, you know, to the dark side of the moon, but we can't solve health care and health insurance for people who need it. And so anyway, I finally said, okay, if that's a path to be able to make a difference, I'm all in. I'm going to do that. But I want to be really clear to people. My aim is to build bridges. I've been a Republican, a Democrat. I have, I vote across. I look for character and competency when I vote when I go in the voting booth. And so I want to be that person who can build those bridges across the aisle. Right now, I don't think we have that in Washington as much as we should.
So when you look around the state of Kansas and you did your 18-town listening tour the last few weeks, you know, I mean, the state has certainly voted for Democrats. Look at Governor Kelly 2 times, but you look at 24, and Donald Trump won the state by 16 points. So as you go around the state, how are you going to make sure the stigma of the Democratic Party nationally is not something that you get branded with around the state of Kansas, where, you know, the national brand of the party is not overwhelmingly popular based on what we've seen in some recent elections?
Yeah, I think that's right. There is a pretty negative view of Democrats across the state of Kansas, I think, when you think about the national Democrats. When they meet people, you know, again, Governor Kelly wins across the state of Kansas, Sharice Davids in this area. And I think people go, okay, when I know you and I know that you're a bridge builder, you actually listen and you care about my concerns, that changes everything. And that's what I found when I've been talking with people. They're like, I talked with a ton of people yesterday. They're like, I haven't voted for a Democrat for Senate in my life, but I'm going to be voting for you. I know who you are. I know what you stand for. You hold the values that I hold, and I'm with you. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this time around. I think there's some real frustration with what's happening in Washington. I think there's a sense that people aren't listening and paying attention. And I think Laura Kelly has been a great governor for Kansas, and people feel that. And, you know, I think I'd try to bring much of that same spirit of bipartisanship, of trying to bring the concerns and really, you know, taking seriously, you know, people on both sides of the aisle. I would be excited to have a chance to represent Republicans and Democrats in Congress.
Pastor Adam Hamilton's joining us on KCMO, launching his U.S. Senate bid yesterday. When you were launching the exploratory committee, you noted here, quote, "I value Republicans, I value Democrats, and they each bring something to the table that is important."
Yes.
So now that you're running as a Democrat, what is something that is a Republican belief or Republican ideology or value that you believe in?
Well, I think we need to have a strong defense. I think that's really important. I think we need to have, I want to have as limited a government as we can, but at the same time, we need, and regulations, I think we're over-regulated, in many cases, but I also, as a Christian, I look at the fact that we struggle with what Christians call original sin. So that means sometimes people will do the wrong thing, and we have to have laws and regulations that will, that actually protect other people. But I generally like to see as much as limited a government intervention as possible. So I'd say limited government. I would say, defense. I would say fiscal responsibility is really important. And that's where, again, both parties need the other. Democrats are very concerned about safety nets and making sure that, vulnerable people are protected and asking serious questions about when do we deploy defense. And Republicans are serious about, let's make sure we have a good defense and let's make sure we're being fiscally responsible and we can pay for the programs that we're supporting. And I think both of those are important counterbalances to each other.
Do you anticipate having some Republican endorsements as this campaign rolls along for you?
Absolutely. In just quiet conversations, I've heard from people saying, look, I am really supportive of who you are and what you want to do. And I'm, you're going to be hearing from me or hearing from people. I think there's a sort of groundswell of folks who are Republicans for Hamilton, and you're going to hear a lot more about that across the state of Kansas. And I've heard this from other Republicans across the country who said, hey, I've heard you might be running. I'm really excited about that. And I think you're the kind of person we need in Congress. And I think what Americans are clamoring for is people who are willing to put country above party. And that's, I think those are the kind of people who are going to say, look, you're one of those people with character and you stand for things and you stand for values and things that I believe in. And I'm with you. It doesn't matter whether you have a D or an R by your name.
So as you walk this fine line and the balancing act that you're going to go ahead with here going forward, what is something, I asked you about something you agree with Republicans on. What's something that you disagree with Democrats on?
Well, I think there are times that the pendulum swings too far. And I wouldn't say Democrats as a whole or Republicans as a whole either way. But I would say if you look at the pendulum can swing so far to the left, and there are places where people are on the far left of the party, and I'd say that just doesn't reflect Kansas values and it doesn't reflect my values. And so, I think there needs to be a sort of reasoned and critical thinking when it comes to some of those national policies. And I think, I just think, again, we need to be reasonable. We need to be people who go, what can we do? How do we compromise to be able to bring about, the best good we can for the most number of people? And I think sometimes that gets lost. So, I just think there are times where I look at things and I go, really, that, surely we can come up with something better than just a far left expression. And this is why people on the far left tend to criticize me and people on the far right tend to criticize me. But I think there's a whole lot of people in the broad middle that go, you know what, that guy's reasonable and he stands for things that I believe in, which have to do with stuff that's, these are fundamentals, values, even in Scripture. Love your neighbor, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Care for the vulnerable and the poor. These are all things that most of us would say yes to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I think a lot of people are going to hear that and agree with you on that. And I think that's a fair commentary. But where has like the left gone? What's a specific issue where the left you think has just gone too far out to the left?
Well, I would say, so here's an example. I think when Biden was trying to cancel student loan debt, and I'm like, wait a minute, I had to pay for my college loans. I realize that we need to have some policies to say there may be people in a difficult situation we need to address, but I would be one of those who'd say I'm a little cautious about, carte blanche canceling all student loan debt. So those are the kind of things. I think we need to have, strong border policies, but we also need to have compassion and we need to be, I think people were very frustrated with the number of immigrants who came in the first 3 years of Biden's administration. And I think that, that was harmful to our country. I think it was harmful to our country in particular. It was harmful to the Democratic brand. I think they began, so I think having reasonable laws, I think we need to have those. And I think that's important. I think it's critical to our future.
Was this decision by you as much about what you saw from Senator Marshall and how he voted and how he handled himself, or was it something else and more about, what you wanted to do? How did you balance those two things in your decision?
Yeah, it was less about what I wanted to do. I had 4 years until retirement, and I love my job, and I love my people at Resurrection. It's an awesome church. But I found myself increasingly frustrated by several things. First, Congress's role, and I'll say the Senate now, the Senate's role is to be a check and balance on executive power. And the president's not always going to make the right decisions. He's going to say or do things sometimes that somebody should be saying, hey, that's not right. That doesn't reflect who we are. And I kept thinking to myself, come on, Roger, speak up. Come on, Senator Marshall, speak up. You have the president's ear. Speak up when he says things that are belittling to others or threatens, our allies, or when we have, when tariffs are being announced that are, 10% one week and 40% another. And I just think, okay, I know you guys are close, but it's time to, somewhere Congress has to speak up. And I've just found myself increasingly frustrated with things that I was seeing. And I think this is hurting people. And I think we have to do better than that. And so it was sort of a slow build over the last year of feeling like we have to do better than what we're doing today. And again, the way the framers of our Constitution design our Constitution is that each of the branches of government are meant to serve as a check and balance. And we need, in this case, Republicans are in the majority. You got to speak up. You got to have moments where you have the courage to say, this is not right. And it's interesting when senators in the Republican Party are finally retiring, they find a voice. They're speaking up. They're saying, hey, this isn't right. But until then, they seem to be kind of quiet and going along with things that I can't believe they think are right. And so and that has to do with things, again, that are, it's also not working together. So I was out in Kansas and hearing from a woman who said, I'm paying $2,400 a month for health insurance. I can't do that. I'm going to be priced out of health insurance. And I'm thinking that's most people's house payment or more for health insurance. And yet we've got Republicans and Democrats not working across the aisle to solve this problem. There's just a lot of these kind of things. And I'm feeling like I wish that our senator and our senators as a whole, Jerry Moran's, I've heard really great things about him, but I wish our senators as a whole would listen better to their people and would speak up, would have a voice.
And lastly, what did you do to tick off Elon Musk that got your campaign account suspended on X?
I have no idea exactly what happened, but I thought it was rather interesting. I mean, I hope people will go check it out, and they can go to hamiltonforkansas.com and see my exploratory video, since X has taken it down, which I find just fascinating. But I'd love for people to go to hamiltonforkansas.com and just watch my exploratory video and see, why did Elon Musk take that down? And if they have a good answer, I'd love to know. But I found that really, really interesting and a bit disappointing, obviously. I have no idea, but I think it's kind of funny.
All right. Pastor Hamilton, thank you. We appreciate you being here to kick off your campaign. We'll talk to you, and I know there'll be more to get into in the months ahead as this campaign gets off the ground. Thanks for your time.
Hey, Pete, thanks for having me on. Have a great day.
All right. Adam Hamilton on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM. There you have it. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And there will be a lot of time to dig into more of the issues in the weeks and months to come. John, who won the tickets to see Greg Gutfeld?
Steve Wiegers in Lansing going to see the show.
All right. Congratulations there, Steve. 2 more chances to win tickets to see Greg Gutfeld at Cable Dahmer coming up on Sunday at 9:30, and then in Keatsman's show at 10:30 here on KCMO. We'll get to buy, sell, hold. We do it every Friday morning at this time, and we'll do it coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio. All right, you getting ready for the weekend? You're rolling out of bed? I mean, probably up for a while now, right? I don't know. Maybe you are rolling out of bed. Good for you. It's Friday morning, whatever. But you're maybe looking around the kitchen, the bathroom, and you're like, all right, it's time. It's time to get this thing updated. CMP Construction. Family-owned, Kansas City company, run by Chris and Teresa. They are KCMO Talk Radio fans and friends of the radio station. They're not a big corporate remodeler. It's a team that treats your home the way that they would treat their own. That's what they do. Kitchens, bathrooms, basements, full remodels. Get CMP Construction out right now for a free quote, and you'll hear about their quality craftsmanship, the clear communication, and just doing things the right way. No pressure, no runaround. I mean, they're not going to, trust me, I've dealt with the corporate remodelers before, And with all due respect, I'm ready to throw them out of the house after 5 minutes. That's not what CMP Construction's all about. Family first approach, and it's why people across Kansas City have been coming back for decades. Find them online, see their work at cmpremodel.com. That's cmpremodel.com, and start the conversation today.
On Friday's Guy Benson show from the other Washington State, Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator, he's been tangling with Democrats on Capitol Hill this week. Coming up at 2 o'clock on KCMO.
I know. Everyone's got a question for Pastor Hamilton. I didn't ask. I get it. It's how it goes. All right.
This guy's only been on once.
We got
months here.
To me, here's the thing. We'll be drilling down on policies and more specific things as the campaign rolls on. but I wanted to hit some of the big things in that conversation, like, hey, where are you at with Democrats? Where are you at with Republicans? Like, hit the big things, not drill down on specific policy. There will be time for that. And my hope is he will be back to have those conversations. And I didn't ask him about the church because, to me, that's almost irrelevant to the race itself. Like, that's a church conversation. That's not really a conversation to Kansas voters. But maybe that comes up in the weeks to come. We'll have to see. But, I asked what I thought made sense based on the first interview the day after the launch, and we hope he'll be back. He made the rounds. He was on Morning Joe at 6 o'clock this morning, and then he was here. He was warming up for his KCMO interview with Joe Scarborough. That's what I'll keep telling myself, at least. Here we go.
It's time to buy, sell,
how about a damn 12 and a half, 15,
and hold. Buy, sell, or hold is sponsored by KC Pier, the experts in foundation repair. Don't buy, sell, or hold your home without an inspection from KCPier.com.
That's right, KC Pier. Good deal. All right, John, what's on the rundown, brother?
All right, buy, sell, or hold the potential of a Trump IRA.
Oh, my goodness. I am buying this as quickly as I possibly can. So the president announced it yesterday on how they're trying to change retirement plans for those on the lower end of the income bracket. They're going to launch TrumpIRA.gov January of 27. And what it is basically the government will match up to $2,000 in a retirement account for you if you make, as a family, between $41,000 and $71,000 a year. So first off, teaching people compound interest is so important and so valuable. And I think trying to wean people slowly off of Social Security is a fantastic idea as well. The Trump accounts for kids is something that is doing that. This TrumpIRA.gov will launch in January of 27, is intended to do that. So I'm all about anything that gets people more opportunity to save for retirement and take advantage of compound interest over 35, 40, 45 years. And this is another way to do it. So I'm all in, John.
All right. Buy, sell, or hold. The Iran war needs to end sooner than later.
Buy. We just had gas prices hit $4.20 across the country on average. We are at 4-year highs here in Kansas and Missouri as well. We're at the ceasefire deadline. I don't think it's clear to anybody what the plan is right now. I mean, go ask people on the street corner what the plan is right now. I don't think they could tell you. The plan from day one is different than it is today, and that's fine. I understand that wars change, but you're getting to the point now in this conflict where there is little upside to continuing. They're just, if the nuclear capabilities are gone or at least set back 10, 20 years, do you just walk away and say, you know what, our job here is done? Or do we just keep dragging this thing on where people say, I'm sick of the $4 gasoline? And then, Republicans will take an absolute butt kicking in the midterms, and it's not going to be pretty. So I just think that there's got to be a wrap up here sooner rather than later, John.
All right, how about this one? Buy, sell, or hold the Mundo in the Morning Kentucky Derby trifecta.
Well, what are we thinking? Someone texted in and said, hey, can you guys each pick a horse for a trifecta tomorrow? And I said, sure, let's do that. So you want to go first, John? I know you're really into the Kentucky Derby. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Give me a good horse.
Here comes Crippled Chicken, followed by Grandpa's Knob on the rail from behind. I'll take Emerging Market. We've been talking about things like that. I'll take Emerging Market.
Emerging Market.
Yeah.
Okay.
15-1 odds.
15-1 odds
Okay.
on Emerging Market. Okay. Right. Mark, what do you got?
I like Further Ado, second or third favorite, 6-1 odds out of the 18th slot. I think that going to get out and get after it.
Okay. And I'll go, I pick based on the number and the name, and I like Chief Wallaby, the number 12 position. I'm seeing, what are the odds on Chief Wallaby there, Mark?
Looks like 8-1.
And it's
So not
8-1. 8's
Top
my
five?
favorite number, all right? I could do it like, Chief Wallaby, what a horse. What a horse, that Chief Wallaby. All right, I got Chief Wallaby. Mark's got Further Ado, and John has
Emerging Market.
Emerging Market. Buy, sell, hold in the books. Luke Dorris in studio on the tornado warning controversy next. It's our feature Friday on KCMO Talk Radio. We like to break it down, have a long-form conversation with somebody who can be interesting, compelling, unique, and that is our good friend Luke Dorris, KCTV5 Chief Meteorologist. And no, Luke is not here to prepare us for any tornado warnings. That's not on the agenda. It's not on the forecast for today. But what I wanted to bring Luke on to talk about first off is this conversation that I think started with our friend Mike Thompson, longtime Fox 4 and Kansas City meteorologist, who brought up some concerns he has had about the National Weather Service and whether or not they're issuing too many tornado warnings on storms that should be severe thunderstorm warnings. So Luke's here to give his perspective and keep that conversation going. Luke, good morning. It's great to have you here. We appreciate your time as always, my friend. Where are you at on this? I know you've talked about it a bit on social media, but take us through where you're at on this and what has been a record year so far for these tornado warnings around Kansas City.
Well, Pete, there's a way that we can look at this and discern if we have had false alarm. You know, what we're looking for here is the false alarm ratio, what we call the FAR. And that's a problem. You know, you don't want to have false alarms, but you have to pick because it's not going to be perfect. Do you want too many warnings or too few of warnings? Do you want to be really conservative and make sure as best you can that every storm gets its warning? Or do you want to go the other way and where you could get into a risk of just over-warning people and they don't pay attention? So there's a balance to strike there, but you know, just the nature of weather is it won't be perfect. So with that said, we have had lots of warnings. This has been this is not even close. Number one year to date number of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings for the Kansas City general area. And we're like almost double third place, by the way. So then how do we see if these warnings were justified? Well, we have storm reports, and storm reports are what happened. This is not from the National Weather Service necessarily. This is from emergency managers. This is from police officers. This is from people, your listeners, saying, hey, this happened. And, you know, maybe we report it on the news, and then that becomes a storm report. So if the storm reports didn't match the degree of the warnings that we've had, then we could say, yeah, there's probably too many warnings going on. But they don't. Guess what the number one year to date is for number of storm reports is 2026. So we've got records on both sides. That tells us that these warnings have been justified. We've just had a lot of severe weather, and we've had a lot of tornadoes. We're at 19 for the year so far. That's a lot, man.
So these tornadoes that we've had so far, EF0, EF1, I'm not downplaying, you know, EF0, EF1, but that has been the bulk of them, right? And that's, I guess, the bulk of most tornadoes, if we're being fair.
Yes, certainly.
Okay.
You have more weak tornadoes than you do strong tornadoes. And it starts with, you know, EF0 is going to be your most common tornado. We have had a couple of EF2s, so there have been some stronger ones in there, but the bulk has been the weaker ones. So the question then you have to ask is, do you not want a warning for an EF1 tornado? Brother, the reason I got into meteorology is I was hit by 90-mile-per-hour straight line winds, what's called a microburst. And you want to find something that will jack your day up. A 90-mile-per-hour straight line wind event will ruin your day. And I was in a building, big warehouse, where I ran a forklift whenever I was in college. This is before I was even going to school to be a meteorologist. I was at the time going to be an automotive engineer. And the storm blows in, and I thought we were getting hit by a tornado. It blew half that building down. Now, it was an aluminum-sided warehouse, but a big building large enough for Mack trucks to come in and out. And that's straight line winds. The thing about a vortex is, imagine if you're like, you've got a, let's say you've got a post that is in the mud, in the dirt, and you have to get this post out, a fence post, and you just try to like move it one way. You're just pushing on it straight. That's not how you do it. You do it by jerking it back and forth and moving it all around. The wind from a vortex is going to find all the weaknesses, and they're 3 times more destructive than the equivalent wind speed for straight winds. So what I was in, a 90-mile-per-hour straight line wind event, what we call a microburst, would have been a low-end tornado, and it blew the building down with the straight winds. As a tornado, you're ripping the roof off of your house. I want that warning. That to me is not dismissive of it's only an EF1. An EF1 tornado, man, is still a tornado. I mean, there's no it's not a thing. You would want a warning for that unless you can convince me otherwise. I just don't see that. Now, let me say, I've got all the respect for Mike. Mike Thompson served this community well for a long time. And, he's got his viewpoint and he's allowed that, and that's okay. I just want to be very clear with Mike is fantastic. We just see this differently. And I think tornadoes should be warned whether they're an EF0 or an EF1 or an EF2 or an EF5. They're all tornadoes, and they all cause destruction.
What is that difference between, a severe thunderstorm where you're getting those winds at, I think it's 58 miles an hour or more, and that EF0, and how does one determine if we've got an EF0 of 65, 70 miles an hour versus, hey, we had straight line winds in this thunderstorm of 65 miles an hour? How is that handled and how is that done?
So the number I referenced earlier of 19 tornadoes, that's where the National Weather Service will actually send a crew of meteorologists out, and they do what's called a damage survey. And this damage survey, of course, is where they're looking, and they can tell. It's not hard to tell if it was straight line wind or if it's been picked up and you've got some debris being blown one way, and then you've got twists in trees and things like that. So they're rather easily able to determine if it was straight line winds or not. And the other thing is they'll look for something called DIs, or damage indicators. And since we went from the F scale to the EF scale, this was 2007 that change was made. They updated essentially all the different types of DIs that they could look at, very specific stuff. So like not just did a house lose its roof, how well constructed was the house? Not just did a tree get ripped out, what kind of tree got ripped out? So it gets pretty granular, and that's how they can determine with a pretty good degree of accuracy how high the winds were. So that's where we got that 19 so far this year, is those are verified. There's a chance that there were more that just didn't get reported or confirmed, or they didn't send the crew out.
Now, when you look at this year and this record number of warnings that have been in place so far for the Kansas City area to date, what is the driver of what this year has been pushed by in the atmosphere and why we've had such an active season?
Well, whenever we have some weather event, Pete, there's always some drive, and it's understandable. Why is this happening? And you often hear knee-jerk answers like climate change is a big one. Climate change causes. It's like, well, we don't know that. You have to do research in order to have an honest answer where you remove certain data and then you put it back in and see what was the driver here. And that takes, it's going to take a long time to figure that out. That said, we have a pretty good idea, a pretty good guess. If you're a betting man, you could put your chips down on this and you'd probably win. We talked about it in the beginning of the season on our weather show, and it has to do with the temperatures of the ocean in the Pacific. And there was some research that was done by a researcher named Dr. Lee. He's out of Miami at the Atmospheric and Oceanic Meteorological Lab. And after the 2011, the outbreak of outbreaks was in 2011. I mean, that's where you had the swarm of EF5s over Alabama and Mississippi. If you remember that, I mean, it was a generational tornado outbreak. Well, after that, there was a lot of research that was trying to say, why did this happen? What they found is if you go from a cool phase in the Pacific, the Eastern Pacific, to a warm phase, which is La Nina, to El Nino, you've heard those terms, I'm sure. Well, the El Nino is the warm water sloshing back across the Pacific Ocean. And what that does is it releases a whole bunch of heat. All that heat that gets stored in the ocean is released into the atmosphere. And this happens about every 5 to 7 years. This is not a new thing. This has happened for a long time. So that heat gets released to the atmosphere. Whenever you heat the atmosphere in the Eastern Pacific, well, that will adjust our jet stream. Think of the West Coast, our Pacific coast. That jet gets pushed up and then back down over our area. And what ends up happening locally across the plain states in the Midwest is something called the low-level jet, which is only about a mile above the ground. It really gets sped up. So we see all this heat and humidity pump in from the Gulf, and that's unstable. That's storm fuel. So whenever you have more storm fuel, you can have more storms and you can have stronger storms. So simply the connection is on the years that we have gone from the cool phase to the warm phase, we have bigger severe weather seasons in this part of the world. Pretty commonly, the number 2 number of warnings that we've had on record was 2024. That was a cool phase to a warm phase. Behind that was, 2019. It was also a very active year. 2016. You go back and you look at the records, and it aligns pretty well. And this year is a hard hit, going from cool to what's probably going to be called a super Nino, where we've got extra warm water. So that's a pretty good guess, Pete.
Luke Dorris, our guest here on a Feature Friday. Coming up next, what exactly needs to happen to improve the warning system? And also, what are we looking at for the rest of the spring? That and more coming up next.
Vince Colonnese here, and I'm coming up at 11 after Kevin Keatsman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
We're back with Luke Dorris, Chief Meteorologist at KCTV5, joining us on a Friday morning on KCMO. So, Luke, when it comes to the active weather season we've had, are we expecting May to just continue, or is there a chance that May slows down? And if so, is there any rhyme or reason for that?
Well, most likely we are entering, if you look at history, we're entering still our most active part of the year. May and June is when we peak. So is there any reason to think that we won't do that? No. We should expect that most likely we will continue to see a well above average number of severe thunderstorms and just kind of a stormy time for us. Could it go the other way? Yeah, it could. I just don't see a strong signal that would point to that. We've got a good break right now. This is fantastic, but it just won't last. We get into especially mid-May and all the way through June, we're still in game mode for storms.
Okay, so, one thing I know that you did note on social media as the conversation goes on as to whether or not, there have been too many tornado warnings, if we're being, I don't want to say cautious with them, but just being smart in how they're delivered. I know there's something else that, you talked about, and that is, do we change or is it smart to change the system? Example, the tornado warnings in southern Johnson County that might impact Spring Hill. Well, if you're in Prairie Village, obviously that's got nothing to do with you. So is there a way to improve the system to the point where it's not exclusively all of a county that gets notified over something that may impact a sliver of a county?
Yes, Pete, this is it. This is the answer right here. It's not the number of warnings. It's not that the Weather Service is issuing tornado warnings. It's unrelated to necessarily that. What it is that you have a disconnect from the people issuing the warnings, which is the National Weather Service, to those who sound the sirens, which are local officials, city officials, emergency managers, sometimes police officers or fire departments or dispatch centers, people that aren't meteorologists. And that's not a knock on them. It's just their responsibility is over something that may not be their expertise. So what happens is we have something called whole county alerts in our part of the world, and Missouri and Kansas. Now there's other states that have partial county alerts, but we can, with whole county alerts, mitigate the fact that your siren's going off in the western part of the county for a tornado that's on the eastern part of the county. In fact, there's been a lot of work that has been done to attempt this so that we don't over alert. I think, in my opinion, the over alert stuff is tied to sirens, from what I'm gathering from whenever we talk to people, more so than it is a tornado warning, which would be much smaller and generally not take up an entire county. Now, the way it works is most counties are broken up into zones, like Clay County is broken up into zones. You've got a north zone, east zone, south zone, west zone. And the way it should go is only the zones that are impacted by the warning should have their sirens go. It's not perfect because there will still be some people outside of the warning that would have a siren blow, but it should drastically drop. The problem is, again, the disconnect where you have inconsistent standards on what are the thresholds. Some places will blow the siren for wind, for 70-mile-an-hour wind, and they don't even need a tornado warning to blow it. Well, that's a problem. It's just not standardized. Like you look at Jackson County. There's unincorporated Jackson County, which is going to get the county-wide sirens, and then you've got Kansas City, which is broken down into Lee Summit. City officials are going to do it. The Northland, those city officials are going to. So it's broken down by cities, not even just the county. So it's all non-standardized, and you get this big mess on your hands of who's responsible for blowing the siren, where's the siren going to blow, a lot of confusion. And then what really comes in is those that are responsible for it, and I don't blame them, they're going to err on the side of caution because it would be better for them to alert too many times than to not alert on the time that it mattered. So I think that you just get this result of sirens blowing way too often for people that are not under a threat, more so than it is the number of warnings.
So is that something that needs to be done federally, or is that a local, county, statewide thing to do in your estimation?
In my opinion, it would be the systems in place. We have county zones that would solve this problem. We have the cities that are responsible for their city. And if you're in a warning, blow the siren for sure. If you're not in a warning, then don't. But there seems to be some issue where that system is not being followed. And that's a very complex case by case, county by county question that you would have to take to everybody that's involved in that process. So how would we standardize that? I don't know exactly. I don't have that answer. I think that's a very difficult thing to answer because sirens are not run by the Weather Service. They're not issued. They don't blow by the guys that are and women that are issuing the warnings. And here's the other thing is don't rely on sirens. Pete, that's not what they're for. That's a last line of defense. There's a lot of times that they fail, mechanical failures or human errors. A big one that we had here not too awful long ago was Andover, Kansas. You had an EF3 that was ripping into Andover, and they just didn't work. They just flat out didn't work. This is World War II tech that is designed as the last line of defense. If you are outside and you don't have a phone on you and you don't have a way to get an alert, then sirens, yeah, they serve a purpose. If you're inside your house with your air conditioning running, asleep in bed, and you expect that the siren, you rely on that to wake you up, that's not a good defense because they're not even made for that. You won't likely hear it, and it may fail. The answer is your phone. Wireless emergency alerts. They're triangulated by the cell towers. Your phone's going to go nuts, just like if there's an Amber Alert, if you're in the warning. So if you're outside the warning, it doesn't go off. That's why you need to make sure that your device is charged and that you've got the settings all right. That's really something everybody has on them today that is reliable and a good way to go. The weather radios are going to go a whole county too. So you're going to get a lot of over alert. They're going to go, but just get ready for a lot of extra alerts whenever you may not be in the warning.
Yeah, I've got the old school weather radio just as backup. I've had it since I was living down in Oklahoma. And it's, like you said, it's countywide, but it's not a bad backup option to have because of what you just alluded to there. So I think the weather radio still has value, no doubt about it. But the phone is obviously option number one if you're home. Also, of course, the TV. KCTV5 is doing a great job. And then we're usually carrying KCTV5. And every tornado warning this spring we've had in our metro, we've carried Luke and the team over at KCTV5. So they've done a great job. Is there something, Luke, when you look at coverage here in Kansas City versus other places that you've worked, what's your read on how Kansas City does compared to other high tornado cities? And how do you want to make KCTV5 in this town even better on that front?
Well, the way that you get good at severe coverage is to do a lot of severe coverage. I mean, it's the hardest thing to do because you have no time to prepare. You're on your heels as a team. How are we scrambling to do this well? And that's something that you just see, like Oklahoma City is, in my opinion, the best at severe weather coverage because they do it all the time and it's high-end stuff. So Kansas City is competitive on that just because we have a lot. It's us, it's Wichita, it's Oklahoma City, it's Dallas. I mean, those are some of the top severe weather markets that you go. So, yeah, I think that, number one, we are in the top 5 for severe weather coverage. How to make it better is showing the storm. You've got to, the day of, we're going to have somebody in front of a radar and they're going to talk for 4 hours while we've got severe storms moving through. That's useful information. But what gets urgency, what gets people moving is whenever they see something and they're like, oh, that looks bad. And they're saying it's right there, which is not too far from me. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of the streamers. I mean, if you watch some of the streamers, they are doing a lot of that. They have a lot of live streams, a lot of video coming in. And that's something that I want to bring in. I've got a goal here. It's funny that you mentioned this. We're working on it right now on how we can show more visuals, more live feeds, more of the storm. So you see it, not just me or whoever else is covering with the radar.
That's a good way to put it because you're right. I think that does add an element that can be missing at times. But it also seems like whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning this week or some of the ones the last couple of weeks, they've all been late at night when you can't see much anyway. But I agree. That's a game changer. That is a good goal. Luke Dorris, KCTV5 chief meteorologist. So fair to say, Luke, this is year, 3 for you now? This has got to be the most fun you're having here in Kansas City yet with this wild spring we've had.
Well, it's been a lot of evening stuff.
Yeah.
It's been, other than what we had on Monday, I've worked 2 severe events so far. And then the rest of it has been on, we've got Melissa Meter and Mike Nico and Corey Kowitz, covering the evening shifts. And they've just been swarmed with them. So they've had a little sleep and a lot of stress, but they're doing such a great job. But on my end, I've done a lot of, we do a handoff where I'll come in early, which is, about midnight or 1 o'clock, depending on the event. And that's when my day starts. And they've been winding down by the time my shift gets going. So I've missed a lot of the action so far this year, other than a couple of the bigger days where I was in.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing great work. Luke Dorris, KCTV5. Great to have you here, my friend. Thanks for the time and the insight. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Pete. Take care.
Luke Dorris, pumping the iron as always on KCMO. 913-408-7957. Your second to last chance to win tickets to see Greg Gutfeld from the Suite Sunday at Cable Dahmer.
From Lenexa to Lee Summit, you're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM, KCMO Talk Radio.
Who won the Gutfeld tickets there, John?
Chris was listening and is excited to go see the show coming up Sunday in this week at Cable Dahmer Arena.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations, Chris. One more chance with Kevin Keatsman coming up at 10:30 this morning on KCMO. And Kevin also has your final chance to win concert tickets to Morton Amphitheater. That is at 10:45. You get to pick either Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, or Hank Williams Jr.
I thought it was Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan, or Hank Williams Jr. or Luke Bryan. Doing the subliminal thing. Anybody?
Yeah, we need a Luke Bryan winner. Maybe it's coming today. Right now, Aldean is up 7-2 out of the 9 winners so far. How about that? I would have thought Aldean would have won, but I thought it'd be like 5-3-2 or something along those lines.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
But the excitement, Jason's got his new CD dropping today, or whatever you kids call it nowadays.
What's a
streaming.
CD?
Yeah, what's a CD?
What's a
well,
CD?
nowadays I might as well say record because they're back. So,
yeah, records are in, CDs are out.
Right, Grandpa?
He actually has a song on his new record with Luke Bryan.
Oh, well, maybe Luke can show up to Morton Amphitheater and get some people to see
hang
him
around town.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. All right. Our caller of the day, we'll set this up. The president yesterday rolled out a new IRA plan. It's specific for people who do not have retirement accounts through their employer. So like here, or most places, if you have a 401k account, retirement option, you can't apply for this. You can't get involved in it. But it launches next January, and you can get a match from the federal government if you make, as a family, between $40,000 and $70,000 a year, and you don't have an employee option to put into a 401k. So that's who this plan is geared towards. The president rolled it out yesterday. Here's what he said.
Beginning at the start of next year, every American will be able to go to TrumpIRA.gov and open a new low-cost IRA account. You'll then be able to access the same type of retirement accounts that federal employees enjoy through the thrift savings plans, which are incredible. As part of the Federal Savers Match Program, low-income Americans will be eligible to receive up to $1,000 per year in matching funds deposited directly into their accounts. It's a great thing. For millions of Americans who lack employer-sponsored plans, this will be really revolutionary because they'll be covered. Nobody thought that was possible. For example, if a 25-year-old who is eligible for a Savers Match Program invests just $165 a month under the matching federal contributions, they will have an estimated $465,000 in their account by the time they're 65 years old. In other words, they'll be rich. And there's something awfully nice about that.
Takes one to know one. There you go. That is President Trump rolling out this plan yesterday. And it's a great way to, one, teach people the value of compound interest and how important it is. And it's the same thing with the Trump accounts. Keatsman and I were talking about this yesterday off the air, and just how, man, you get those investments started early with the Trump accounts from when kids are born. I know he's doing it with his new grandson. You will just turn over and be a millionaire in no time, courtesy of compound interest. And if this is a way to help wean us off of Social Security one day, not happening tomorrow, next week, next year, one day, man, that's a win for the country in a major way. Let's get to our caller of the day on KCMO.
Hello? It's the Mundo in the Morning Caller of the Day on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Frank's in Overland Park. Frank, good morning. You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete. So good to hear you. Happy Friday. The whole thing of compound interest is absolutely miraculous, number one. But the interesting thing is, you're right, system has let us down, but it really hasn't let us down. The system hasn't caught up. When you really look at history, think about it. Our parents, actually, no, my parents, not yours. You're younger than I am. My parents were about the first generation in history to have disposable income. And disposable income has only come about as a miracle of this nation and the free market system that has allowed a middle class to develop that has disposable income to do something with. Up until the 19 teens, maybe, or 20s, people literally lived, and sometimes didn't live because they didn't produce enough crops. They lived paycheck to paycheck when there was jobs. And it's only since the 1930s and 40s that you have, and coming out of World War II, that you have disposable income that could be amassed into amazing fortunes. We're seeing this with our clients now. They're looking at us going, where did it come from? And I'm saying compound interest.
Yeah.
Compound interest.
Where did it come from? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Frank, great stuff.
But you look at it, and its bottom line is it's our system hasn't caught up to educating this next generation.
And you know what? We need it, and we need it ASAP. Have a great weekend, Frank. Good call. Appreciate you, man.
Too.
There you go. That is Frank in Overland Park, our caller of the day on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Kevin Keatsman, uncanceled, takes over at 10 o'clock. It's going to be very interesting to see how the story of the week plays out in the weeks to come. And that is the announcement that Adam Hamilton is running for United States Senate in Kansas as a Democrat. And just so you know, something I like to look at is the call sheet odds. It's one of these, betting odds websites, and it doesn't predict the future, but it gives you an idea as to where the betting odds and betting money is going. And on April 12th, the Republican Party had a 91% chance to win the United States Senate in Kansas. Today, it is at 74%. 2.5 weeks, it's down 15 points. Democrats on April 12th had a 9% chance to win the U.S. Senate seat in Kansas. It is now up to 26%. Marshall will be the favorite and should be the favorite, but if there's someone that he did not want to run against, it is Adam Hamilton, who was in the race, was on the show this morning, and you can listen back to that interview on the podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, just pull it up on your phone, search Pete Mundo, and you'll find it there. We'll wrap up the week as we do each and every Friday with Kevin Keatsman, the host of Uncanceled, coming up at 10 right here on KCMO.
You're listening to Mundo in the Morning on 95.7 FM KCMO.
Keatsman and I were just saying that we really did get a gift just put on a silver platter to us with this Pastor Adam Hamilton announcement. This is just, it's so good for what we do, Kevin. I mean, regardless of how anyone feels about it, it is going to be so good for this station and, frankly, this town and what we're going to talk about the next few months, isn't it?
I'm so happy he's in.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. You know, we played that thing yesterday. Townhall.com immediately after he announced was ready for him and had a video to release of that interview with the University Daily Kansan where they caught him in the parking lot and he wouldn't answer anything. He was like, I haven't declared yet. And they asked him about Iran and he goes, I'll regret what I say if I say it. It was awful. I mean, it was awful. Now, he was ready for you. So he's been doing his work the last few weeks. He's a smooth, polished guy. But, man, there's a million questions he can't answer because if you ask him point blank, and maybe Roger Marshall will do this, you know, today certainly was not the day for it. Your interview was perfect with him because we're not in really the campaign, but he's going to have to talk about all these issues. He's going to get asked about around the state. You know, one of the things I was thinking about yesterday was what happens when somebody asks Pastor Adam as a Democrat, does he have trans bathrooms at his church? He can't say yes or no. If he says yes, he's cooked. If he says no, they're going to start screaming, you better put him in or we ain't voting for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he fully grasps what he's ponying up to here.
Yeah, he may learn some of that the hard way, to your point. I mean, it's just a dirty game.
I know, but if we're honest, we all say, oh, we're so polarized. If we're honest and we really are polarized, there is no middle lane.
Mm-hmm.
You're either Democrat or Republican. And Democrats are saddled by the hard left.
Yes.
Republicans fight this with some of the people who are really, really, really far right. But it isn't the same. The radical left is way crazier than the right, don't you think?
Oh, and they've got, I think, more power within their own party. Look at the crazy right, the Tucker Carlson, the Candace Owens. They're getting shunned by most mainstream Republicans. Like Trump's done with them. J.D. Vance seems to be done with them. I don't know anyone who has actual power who's embracing that far right now.
I used to love Tucker. I can't watch or listen to anything he
agree.
says. I can't take it seriously.
I'm with you, man.
I just can't. And so I don't know where Pastor Adam falls in that thing, but it's going to be a really interesting race. He's lucky that there's 5 other candidates running because I think if there was like one other person that was a hardened liberal, I'm not sure he'd win the primary.
I agree.
But if there's 5 liberals running, they're going to split up their vote. Now, maybe if the liberals are really organized in Kansas, they'll get 4 of those people out and say, hey, we don't want Pastor Adam in. But I think they just figure he's a liberal. And if he wins, he'll just be a liberal. I didn't see he was on Morning Joe today. I want to go back and watch that later today because I'm curious what he said there compared to what he said here. Because Quentin Lucas, the beautiful part of Quentin Lucas is the way he is on with you is very good. And then he'll go on with Al Sharpton, and he's a totally different dude.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if Pastor Adam's that guy.
We only caught the tail end. It was around healthcare, but yeah, I didn't see the whole thing. That's going to be interesting to watch. But we are going to have so much now between like this race and then, you know, Stegall-Will up north in Missouri. It's gotten pretty hot and heavy here the last few weeks.
Yeah, for the off year. This is great stuff.
Exactly, it is. Well, speaking of great stuff, you a Kentucky Derby guy?
I do. I love the Derby, but my wife made a tea time right in the middle of it tomorrow, so I'm screwed. I'm going to be watching it on my phone, I guess.
Wait. When's the tea time?
The tea time's at 3, so we won't be done until 7. The race is 5:57. It's post time, I think. 5:57.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to catch the race.
Well, it'll be on my phone.
Yeah, on the phone. Yeah, on the phone.
I'll be off in the woods looking for a golf ball, watching a horse race.
Slicing a 7-iron.
Where'd they go? That group in front of us is awful slow. They're all off in the woods watching the race.
Do you like horse racing or just the Kentucky Derby?
I like going to the races. I actually used to like dog racing better than horses because it moves faster. You know, there's 25 minutes between each horse race. And then what do you do? You know, it's too long.
I've never been to a horse race in my life, coming to think
of
it.
We were out in Arizona about 6 weeks ago or so. I had a buddy and his wife and their kid were staying with us, and we went to a sports bar, and they have little race books right there in Arizona. And there's a crotchety old guy at the window. We walk up, and I put a bid in. I don't know what I'm doing. My friend Rob knows a lot about it. He's like, oh, this is great. He's betting $5 a race or whatever. Yeah. This is awesome. He's going through all the odds. I'm just picking names and numbers and colors and stuff, right? And so I hit like this exacta for $268 on a $5 ticket. I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But this is an easy one. You guys picked your trifecta.
Yeah.
It's Travis Kelce's horse.
Which one's that?
Right to Party. You got to fight.
Oh, there you
for
go.
your right. It's not really his horse, but if you're a Chiefs fan, we got to go with Right to Party.
Right to Party. Okay. Well, Mark, that's a big miss by you, man. I figured you'd be all over that.
I know. I saw the odds were like 30-1 or something, so I was like, yeah, I'll stay away from that.
All right. Who's your horse again, Mark?
Further ado.
Further Ado. Okay. He's all in on Further Ado. All right. That's fine. So you'll be out looking for a sliced 7-iron golf ball as the game. You'll probably be on the 14th hole, give or take.
Yeah. I like derby parties. You know, people throw them. We've got some friends that are having one. I'm like, nah, I got a tee time. We're playing golf, so we won't be there. But I don't like the big dress-up ones. I don't like mint juleps. I don't want to get dressed up for going to somebody's house and watching a horse race. But it is fun to watch.
Have you ever been to the Derby?
I've been to the Breeders' Cup there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When we were union broadcasting, we had a radio station in Louisville. So we used to go over there from time to time. The reason I didn't go to the Derby was, again, too much pageantry, too much dressing up. All our clients were there. I'm like, no, this is work, man. Because you don't get to go to the Derby and really enjoy it. It's just going to be hanging with people and schmoozing and doing all that stuff.
Is it that nice, the grounds?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. I mean, well, if you get one of the fancy suites and clubs, yeah. But it's just a giant horse track.
Yeah.
You know,
it's nothing.
It is the biggest disparity of people you've ever seen. There's like people in there betting their $2 tickets that go there every day, and you know the stereotype from like Ocean's 11, the old guy in Ocean's 11 that hangs out at the track.
Yep.
There's that, and then there's billionaires that fly their jets in right by there, and they come in. They're Saudi princes. I mean, there's everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. The Trump IRA accounts that he announced yesterday. I know you're all in on the Trump accounts for grandson Rudy, who was just born here a few weeks ago. I love everything about this, don't you? I mean, what's not to like about these plans?
I do. They're excellent. We've got to find some sort of mechanism to get people to do them.
Yes.
Because just Trump saying, you know, you got half the country or 40% of the country, if Trump says do it, they're going to go, I ain't doing whatever. They're giving you money.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
Take the free money. I mean, if you had a baby and you didn't do anything else but take the $1,000, let it sit there for 18 years and see what it is. Because you can't touch it.
Yep.
So I don't understand what the problem is with free money. I thought that's what Democrats were all about.
I know.
It's like a Democrat scheme he's come up with here.
I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but if it helps wean off of Social Security and people are like, wait, I can invest my own money, start at 25, and oh my gosh, this compound interest thing is real. My money doubles every 7-8 years on average. Look what I've been missing out on.
If we could get to a point where what we take out of people's Social Security, their checks for Social Security, where a portion of that went into a retirement fund for them to offset whatever the monthly would be at that time, Social Security, we could get rid of this thing in 30, 40, 50 years. It would take time. You have to phase it out. But I think we all recognize, even if the government implemented the investing for us, which is kind of what they're doing here, I'd rather them invest my money than just spend it and give it away to all these other programs and stuff that they're doing. I don't. There's just got to be a better way than Social Security.
If people looked at their pay stub too and saw how much went to Social Security every paycheck, and then they realize I just have to hope I live long enough to see some semblance of that. When if that was invested into the markets for 40 years, I'd be sitting on millions of dollars on average.
I think I told you guys the story. So I'm eligible this summer. I think I'm just going to take it and invest it. Why would I wait?
There's yes.
I know you get more, but you got at my age right now. You got to live to 83 just to break even. Okay, so I lose. How do I lose on this deal? Oh, I lived to 84. Great, I won.
I've heard this two schools of thought. One is take it early and then invest it. To your point, if you're still working,
invest it.
The other way is to wait till the maximum, which is 70. And then you get the big chunk then.
You just get a bigger check every month.
Yes, you get a bigger check. But I've heard that theory, and I think Dave Ramsey's gotten behind that theory, which is the mathematics work where if you take it right away and you're able to just invest it and you're not reckless, you'll do better.
If I invest every penny of it for 10 years, that's going to be a pile of cash.
Yes.
In 10 years. You put that in the markets for 10 years, it's going to be a pile. Then you take a percentage off that to supplement your lower check, and you're probably still making more per month. And you have whatever the pile of cash is still sitting there.
Yeah.
Because if you're only taking 5% out of it, you're still probably it's going to keep going up. And if I croak at that point, my wife gets that pile of money.
Yeah. No, I've heard that theory.
And what if they decide to cut it off or reduce it or who knows what the government's going to do?
That's so true. Hey, man, have a great show.
Oh, you got me thinking about money now. I'm not sure I can do the show now. You start to think about this stuff really hard when you get older.
Kevin Keatsman, Uncanceled, is coming up next. Have an awesome rest of your weekend. We're back Monday morning at 6 on KCMO Talk Radio, 95.7 FM.